Chapter 1380. At this moment, the golden page world in the depth of Yimo's sea of consciousness suddenly floated up and turned into golden Tao waves before Yimo. This Tao wave that resonated with Chaos Realm law circulated in the golden world. The Tao wave that fused with the golden page world became clearer. It was as though if Yimo fused with it slightly, the nearby Chaos Chi would fuse with the golden page world and create his own realm. If it fused with the world of creation, it would create a top-notch world, allowing one to become a supreme almighty being. At the same time, one would comprehend a peerless divine ability. But this wasn't what Yimo wanted. After all this, Yimo knew that a true realm wasn't formed from the outside world. Even if it was a realm formed from a fortune treasure, it wouldn't be the strongest third step. The strongest third step was to use one's Tao wave law to create a realm of one's own. He cultivated the three-birth chant. It was three to all things. He could use his Tao wave law to create a realm of his own. Plus, this was the Chaos Realm. There was Chaos Law Chi. It was fine if he did not reach the third step, but as long as he reached the third step, he would become the strongest. The three-birth Tao waves circulated around Yimo. Waves of Tao wave Chi fused with the Chaos Chi, forming a new world law. The Chaos Law Chi gave Yimo a sense of origin. It allowed Yimo to catch the one that escaped and become one. 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to all things. Waves of world law gathered and formed a new realm domain in Yimo's consciousness space. This realm domain expanded from his consciousness space and formed a connection with the surrounding universe. The rudimentary form of the world formed, laws gathered, and all things sprouted. This wasn't the lightning controlled by heaven Tao, but the law lightning formed when Yimo's world formed. My realm, 3 to form all things. My realm, in all things, above all realms. My realm, controlled by me, Yimo. My realm, not bound by world law. My realm, formed, rumble. Crack crack. Tao waves rumbled and laws gathered. Yimo's chi kept getting stronger and stronger. It's you indeed. She felt Yimo's chi get stronger and stronger and felt a sense of concern. Since her debut, no one had ever given her such a feeling. She believed that only she could rule the world, and only she could reach the pinnacle of the vast universe. Now, someone who also had a creation treasure like her had appeared. That was fine, but this person dared to take the third step in the Chaos Realm's creation realm. If this person succeeded, how could she monopolize the gate of fortune in the future, die? Xingxi's blue lotus turned into blue lotus rays, blocking all the space around Yimo. Even the Chaos Chi around Yimo and the Chaos Realm was blocked by Xingxi. A narrow sword that was as red as blood turned into an endless red killing light. The red killing light directly entered the space blocked by the blue lotus. It even ignored the void of the Chaos Realm and shot towards Ningcheng. This was the first time she released her attack magic artifact. For Xingxi, Ningcheng, and Yimo didn't have the right to make her use her sword. With her creation realm power, she had to use her attack magic artifact against a Tao integration realm insect. That was an insult to her. If she used her attack magic artifact and still couldn't kill a Tao integration realm insect, she would doubt her ability to step into the universe in the future. Even if she couldn't kill him, she had to kill him. Even though she had drawn her sword, Xingxi sighed inwardly. She knew that there was an inexplicable mark in her heart. She didn't use her sword before, probably because she was worried she wouldn't be able to kill Yimo even if she did. However, this thought only flashed in her mind for a moment. In her opinion, as long as her azure lotus was perfected, those inexplicable Tao marks were simply nothing. A chi of death loomed over Yimo's heart. The space around him was completely bound by the blue lotus. That narrow red sword pierced towards his forehead. On the narrow sword surrounded by killing intent, there were two clear words, Avicii. This was the Avicii sword. Yimo's skin shrunk. He had heard of the Avicii sword. This was a very powerful artifact formed by killing Tao. It was on par with his Zisu. At this moment, Yimo didn't have the time to think about how Xingxi got the Avicii sword. Su sliced through the air. The Blue Lotus realm that blocked him and the chaos chi of the Chaos realm was shattered before Su's sword rune. Wave-shaped, twisted blade patterns collided with the Avicii sword's red glow, causing the surrounding laws to explode and become even more chaotic. Xing-Shi's heart sunk. Although she still had the upper hand this time, she didn't have the feeling of crushing Yi-Mo like before. At this moment, she understood that she wouldn't be able to kill Yi-Mo today no matter what. Yi-Mo had completely grown up and had the power to fight with her. After she entered the Chaos realm, her power increased exponentially, but Yi-Mo's growth was much faster than hers. Above the waves of the Milky Way, Ning Qing suddenly stopped. He felt a primal chaos aura that resonated with his heart. For no reason, he sensed that someone was creating a realm and was about to reach the third step. Ning Qing didn't continue following the Milky Way. During this time, he had become more and more integrated with the Tao waves in the Milky Way. He even vaguely learned a new god art in the Milky Way, heaven wave rolling. He had been immersed in this god art, but now that someone had reached the third step, it wouldn't be worth it if he stayed here to learn another god art. In order to learn traceless space collapse, he spent 10,000 years. He couldn't spend another 10,000 years to learn another god art that he didn't need urgently, right? By the time he learned this god art, Xing-Shi's power might be able to instantly kill him. Not to mention Xing-Shi, even Yi-Mo would be able to easily defeat him. Plus, he already knew the Tao waves of the Milky Way. Even if he wasn't here, he could slowly learn heaven wave rolling. Ning Qing no longer had the mood to stay here to learn god art. He stepped to the edge of the Milky Way and shot out with his spear. The hard Milky Way law embankment was torn open. The next moment, Ning Qing rushed out of the gap and disappeared without a trace. On the starry sky wheel, Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness swept out. He knew that after arriving here, he could easily find a cultivation planet. As long as he found the cultivation planet's boundary, he could find the way back using the gray ball given to him by Zi Shao. Didn't the burning talisman say that the Chaos realm was near the Jiaoyang mountain? When he returned, he would go directly to the Jiaoyang mountain to look for it. With the Chaos Jade talisman in his hand, he could eventually find the Chaos realm. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness swept through the endless vast interface, looking at one uninhabited starry sky after another. He even saw several starry sky cultivators flying in the void. Just when Ning Cheng was thinking about whether or not he should find someone to ask, a huge stone suddenly appeared in the range of his spiritual consciousness. This huge stone suspended in the void, just like a planet. This definitely wasn't a meteorite or a planet, because this huge stone seemed to contain the endless aura of the Tao charm of heaven and earth. Since Ning Qing started cultivating, he had seen countless cultivation treasures. He had seen all kinds of places with abundant heaven and earth essence chi and complete laws. After seeing this huge stone, Ning Qing felt as if he had seen the Tao of heaven and earth. In front of this huge stone, all the scenic spots in the past were not even worth mentioning. The moment he saw this huge stone, Ning Cheng's heart filled with a desire. He wanted to go to this huge stone and feel the endless aura of the universe. He wanted to stay on this huge stone and cultivate until he reached the peak of Tao integration. Thinking of this, Ning Cheng's starry sky will instantly change directions. But the next moment, Ning Cheng froze again. He stared blankly in front of him and even forgot to accelerate the starry sky wheel. The huge stone that he had seen clearly before had disappeared. Ning Qing felt sure that he didn't see it wrong, and it couldn't be an illusion. Not to mention that there was no place that could cause him to hallucinate, the aura of the Tao that lingered around the huge stone was not something that could be caused by an illusion. Suddenly, a thought appeared in Ning Cheng's mind. It wasn't the Kuan stone. The Kuan stone was also known as the Stone of the Universe. This stone floated in the void, and it was rumored that those who could see this huge stone were people with great luck. If one could climb onto this huge stone and cultivate, then one would be a person with great luck among people with great luck. As for taking away this huge stone, there was no need to even think about it. No one could take away the Kuan stone. Anyone who obtained the benefits of the Kun stone and wanted to take away the Kun stone would not have a good ending. The Kun stone also had another characteristic. One moment, one could feel it, but the next moment, one might not be able to feel the Kun stone at all. Was this the Kun stone? Ning Qing became even more sure that this was the Kun stone. Only the Kun stone had such a vast aura of the Tao that shocked even him. Ning Qing closed his eyes and drove the starry sky will towards the location of the Kun stone. Whether he could reach the Kun stone or not, he didn't want to let go of this opportunity. There were endless wandering cultivators in the void. What did they want? Wasn't it for opportunities? There were many opportunities in the void, but most of them disappeared in a flash. Now that he saw the Kun stone, if he didn't go after it, he would regret it for the rest of his life. At this moment, any direction was secondary to Ning Qing. He vaguely sensed the location of the Kun stone and tore through the void at the fastest speed. It didn't matter if he couldn't find the Kun stone, he had to find it. Just a few days later, Ning Qing stopped. He looked at the vast and endless void in front of him and felt a little depressed. He felt sure that this was the place where his spiritual consciousness had sensed the Kun stone. But now that he appeared in this place, not to mention the Kun stone, there wasn't even a small piece of void meteorite. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness swept out again and again, but he couldn't find anything. It was just a void. Chapter 1381. This made Ning Qing very unwilling. He couldn't find the Chaos Realm right now. He had finally found the Unkun stone, but he had missed it. If he left like this today, he didn't know when he would see the Unkun stone again. Just as Ning Qing was about to continue using his spiritual consciousness to investigate, a violent spatial fluctuation emerged. Someone was fighting and was moving towards him while fighting. After Ning Qing sensed it, he immediately stood in the void. After a few breaths, two shadows appeared in the void within Ning Qing's spiritual consciousness. There were indeed two people fighting. Moreover, Ning Qing even knew one of the two people fighting. These two fighters did not see Ning Qing, but both of them were heading towards Ning Qing's direction. When the two appeared less than a kilometer away from Ning Qing, they finally saw Ning Qing standing in the void. Ning Qing's cultivation far exceeded the two, and the two of them were completely focused on their battle. Therefore, they didn't notice Ning Qing for a while. After seeing Ning Qing, the two stopped fighting at the same time. The uglier man on the left cupped his fists towards Ning Qing from afar. "Brother Ning, it's a small world." Ning Qing replied with a faint voice, "Brother Duan, it's indeed a long time since we last met. Let's settle our past accounts slowly." Ning Qing had to admire Duan Gantai's advancement speed. Even with the mysterious yellow bead, he was only at the middle stage Dao integration realm. At this time, Duan Gantai was also at the late-stage primordial chaos. Not only was he at the late-stage primordial chaos, but Duan Gantai's cultivation had also solidified. Compared to ordinary late-stage primordial chaos experts, Duan Gantai was much stronger. What surprised Ning Qing even more was the man fighting against Duan Gantai. This man wore yellow robes and looked very handsome. In terms of appearance, this yellow-robed man was 18 streets better than Duan Gantai. What surprised Ning Qing even more was that this yellow-robed man was also at the perfected primordial chaos realm. Ning Qing knew Duan Gantai's strength very well. This was an expert who far surpassed others in the same realm. Even when Ning Qing and Duan Gantai were in the same realm, he couldn't crush Duan Gantai easily. This yellow-robed man fought against Duan Gantai in the same realm and didn't fall into a disadvantageous position, which showed how strong he was. Chu Jiuyu greets Dao friend. "Sorry for offending Dao friend's quiet thoughts, I hope you can forgive me." The yellow-robed man also felt some fear towards Ning Qing's strength, so he cupped his fists and greeted him from afar. "Well said." Ning Qing nodded towards Chu Jiuyu, he had never heard of this fellow before. There were too many powerhouses in the vast void, but he hadn't heard of many of them. What he cared about was Duan Gantai. He had long wanted to find Duan Gantai to settle accounts. This fellow was slippery and would never let him catch him while he was weak. He didn't expect this guy to come knocking on his door. Brother Ning. Duan Gantai gave a dry laugh and subconsciously took a few steps back. He was already prepared to escape at any time. He was also very clear about Ning Cheng's strength. Even if they were in the same realm, he would not be a match for Ning Cheng. Now that Ning Cheng's cultivation seemed to be stronger than his own, he knew that Ning Cheng would definitely crush him. Since crossing over the void, Duan Gantai didn't fear many people, but Ning Cheng ranked first. Even if he did not suffer much in front of Ning Cheng, he still felt some fear in his heart. Ning Cheng smiled, "Brother Duan, since you're already here, don't retreat." While speaking, Ning Cheng's domain's imposing aura suddenly stretched out and enveloped Duan Gantai. Duan Gantai's expression changed, and a white light flashed in his hand. This white light instantly wrapped around him. A powerful force blocked Ning Cheng's spatial shackles, causing Ning Cheng to frown slightly. But just when he was about to take another step forward, another light suddenly flashed between him, Duan Gantai, and Chu Jiuyu. Ning Cheng felt a bit familiar with that light's aura, but it also contained an aura that he hated. This light rushed towards a boulder surrounded by a huge Dao charm. This boulder was the Unkun stone that Ning Cheng had been searching for. He couldn't find it before, and he didn't know when this boulder suddenly appeared. Unkun stone. Almost at the same time, Ning Cheng, Duan Gantai, and Chu Jiuyu called out. Chu Jiuyu immediately rushed towards the Unkun stone. Ning Cheng no longer cared about Duan Gantai. Compared to his grudges with Duan Gantai, the Unkun stone was the most important treasure. The Unkun stone could disappear at any time. Therefore, the first thing Ning Cheng had to do now was to quickly land on the Unkun stone. He left Duan Gantai behind and directly overtook Chu Jiuyu. Almost at the same time as that light, he landed on the Unkun stone. To everyone's surprise, after Duan Gantai saw the Unkun stone, he no longer tried to escape. Instead, he turned around and rushed towards the Unkun stone. The moment Ning Cheng landed on the Unkun stone, he could no longer feel the aura of that light. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness swept out on the Unkun stone. But apart from the vast aura of primal chaos Dao charm, he could only see the boundless stone surface. Ning Cheng knew that he wasn't the only one who entered the Unkun stone. There were 3 other people. At this moment, he fully understood that it wasn't an accident that Duan Gantai and Chu Jiuyu fought here. It was because these 2 fellows also saw the Unkun stone and started fighting for some reason on their way here. Or rather, both of them wanted to kill each other and enter the Unkun stone alone. It's just that neither of them expected the other to be so strong, which led to a stalemate. As for the last familiar aura, Ning Cheng also remembered it. He had a remnant soul in the mysterious yellow bead, but when he perfected the mysterious yellow bead, he destroyed this remnant soul. Later, he went to the mysterious yellow starland's sacred light ridge's mysterious yellow temple and encountered this fellow again. This fellow had collected the power of hope in the mysterious yellow temple to grow. If not for the hope-powered jade seal, this remnant soul would have killed him. Before this remnant soul left, it had said that it would come back to find him and take away the mysterious yellow bead. Now, it really came back, condensed a corporeal body, and gained a certain level of strength. However, this fellow didn't come back to snatch the mysterious yellow bead, but to seize the Unkun stone for cultivation. This fellow had also seen him, but he didn't do anything. Most likely, he wanted to improve his strength on the Unkun stone first. This fellow was an extremely forbearing fellow. He also knew that the Unkun stone was a rare find even in billions of years. Even encountering it once was a great opportunity. Ning Cheng retracted his spiritual consciousness and felt calm in his heart. When he obtained the mysterious yellow bead, there was nothing else in the mysterious yellow bead except for a single mulberry tree. He had spent a lot of effort to perfect the mysterious yellow bead, and no one could take it away from him. Not to mention this remnant soul that had repaired its corporeal body, even if the previous owner of the mysterious yellow bead came here, he wouldn't be able to take the mysterious yellow bead away from him. Ning Cheng didn't continue to think about these things. Instead, he rushed into the place where the aura of the unkun stone was the strongest. He found a spot and began to arrange restrictions. He planned to cultivate here. No matter what kind of battle or grudge, strength was the most important thing. Without strength, everything would be illusory. He wasn't the only one who could discover the unkun stone. Including him, there were 4 people who came in together. There were many people with great luck and opportunities in the void. Only those who laughed at the end would truly have great luck. In the northernmost corner of the Grand Change Realm, 2 stunning women stood here. In front of the 2 of them was a grayish-white space. As soon as one's spiritual consciousness swept into this space, it immediately disappeared. One couldn't penetrate inside at all. Ning Qing knew these 2 people. One of them was his wife, Shi Qianghua, and the other was Shi Qianghua's mother, Shi Qianxi. Shi Qianxi held an ancient token with the aura of samsara in her hand and looked at Shi Qianghua expectantly. If Ning Qing were here, he would have been surprised to find that Shi Qianghua's strength had already reached the full circle of Tao integration. This cultivation speed was even faster than his own. Mother, I miss Ning Qing. I want to go to him first and ask him if he can. Shi Qianghua looked at the grayish-white space in front of her and hesitantly looked at the woman in front of her. Shi Qianghua's mother was the 9 revolutions sacred Tao Pond Shi Qianxi. She sighed and put the token in her hand into Shi Qianghua's hand and said, Qianghua, since the establishment of my 9 revolutions sacred Tao Pond, no one has been able to cultivate to the full circle of Tao integration like you. As long as you use this token to open this place and enter, you will become a top-notch expert at the 3rd step. Seeing Shi Qianghua hesitate, she waved her hand. Qianghua, do you know how many hardships my 9 revolutions sacred Tao Pond has gone through for this day? Do you know how many people despise us and how many people insult us? Do you know how many ancestors of my 9 revolutions sacred Tao Pond have fallen for this day? Do you know how many unyielding souls we have lost? All of these things have piled up for you today. Mother's life and death and joy don't matter. You know what Mother and I need for the entire 9 revolutions sacred Tao Pond. Mother, but this place is called the samsara path of severing emotions. Shi Qianghua's eyes didn't dare to look at the grayish-white world in front of her. She really didn't want to sever the feelings between her and Ning Qing. If she could sever them, she would have done it a long time ago. She wouldn't have waited until today. Shi Qianxi wiped the tears from her eyes and said with a choked voice, Qianghua, do you know what love is? Just because he took your chastity. The love between mother and daughter, the love between sex, the love of reincarnation, the love of upbringing, the love of inheritance. Where did you put all of these? Qianghua, make your own choice. I won't continue to interfere with your choice. If you've already made your choice, then anything I say would be in vain. I just hope to see my 9 revolutions sacred Tao Pond no longer hide in a small interface like it used to be. I just hope that after I fall, my soul won't fall into the abyss of hell because of the existence of the 9 revolutions sacred Tao Pond. I just hope that after a long time, someone will mention Shi Qianxi and know that she's Qianghua's mother. Mother. Shi Qianghua opened her mouth and called out a word. But she couldn't say anything else. Even if she knew that if her mother could kill Ning Qing would have died when he came to find her. But when she heard her mother's words, she still felt a little sad. Her mother's words rang in her ears, and her hunch wasn't wrong. 9 revolutions sacred Tao formula, 9 reincarnations, and one's heart was filled with kindness. At the 3rd step of Tao confirming, one could use the accumulated kindness of 9 reincarnations to sever all reincarnations and become a supreme powerhouse. When she reached the full circle of Tao unification, the secret strip of the 9 revolutions sacred Tao Pond opened. According to the secret strip, a Tao Lord reincarnation once completed this Tao confirming. As a result, Tao Lord reincarnation killed everyone and became a powerhouse when the gate of good fortune opened. But now, she would become the only existence infinitely close to Tao Lord reincarnation. Chapter 1382. Finally, Shi Qianghua turned around and bowed to Shi Qianxi, Mother, take care of yourself. After saying this, Shi Qianghua walked towards the grayish-white land. She knew that this was a Tao-confirming reincarnation world. Seeing Shi Qianghua walk towards the grayish-white land, Shi Qianqi felt relieved. As long as Shi Qianghua walked in, she would most likely step into the third step. The hardest part of cultivating in the 9 revolutions sacred Tao pond was not the third step, but the first step. Shi Qianghua had just walked in front of the grayish-white land when the quaint token in her hands suddenly broke free. The quaint token erupted with a grayish-white light in the grayish-white land, and a vaguely distorted passage appeared in front of Shi Qianghua. Shi Qianghua did not hesitate this time and took a step forward. After she entered the distorted grayish-white passage, the grayish-white land returned to its original state, as if nothing had happened. The aura of samsara rushed over, and the vast and majestic aura of the Grand Tao filled Shi Qianghua's body. At this moment, Shi Qianghua could feel her Grand Tao sublimating. She could even use her own Grand Tao to derive her own laws here. As long as she wanted, she could use the derived laws to condense her own world at any time and step into the creation realm that she yearned for. The passage was endless, and the vast laws of heaven and earth were also endless in this passage, waiting for Shi Qianghua to comprehend it and derive her own world of laws. Moreover, the laws of heaven and earth here gave Shi Qianghua a primal state when the universe first formed, which would allow her to create the strongest world. Shi Qianghua slowly took in a deep breath. She finally understood the power of the 9 revolutions sacred Tao tactic. Combining her own Grand Tao and the primal aura of the universe here, once she condensed her own world's laws and stepped into the third step, she would become a peerless powerhouse. After walking for nearly 100 feet, Shi Qianghua stopped. A few feet in front of her, there was a huge white stone platform. 3 words floated above the platform: severing thought stone. Shi Qianghua knew about this stone. If she wanted to step into the third step and create her own world, she would first have to use this severing thought stone to cut off all the distracting thoughts in her mind. Even if she had retained the bits and pieces of her time with Ning Cheng, they would all be cut off. Because her mother knew that there was a severing thought stone here, she didn't worry that she would retain the feelings she had with Ning Cheng in her 9th life. To the mind's severing stone, emotions were just distracting thoughts. Shi Qianghua took a few steps forward and stood in front of the white severing consciousness stone, while her body trembled slightly. She knew that with this chop, she would no longer have any relationship with Ning Cheng. Once she crossed the severing consciousness stone, she would become Shi Qianghua. Shi Qianghua, who stood tall in the vast universe with her peerless will, from now on, her world only contained the Tao. At this moment, bits and pieces of the time she spent with Ning Cheng slowly flashed through her mind. For her, Ning Cheng had charged into the severing emotions Tao sect alone. For her, Ning Cheng had risked his life to go to the seeking dust mountain. For her, Ning Cheng had not hesitated to fall and enter the sword mountain path. Once, she and Ning Cheng had fled from the graceful star mainland. Once, she and Ning Cheng had snuggled up to each other on the sifting orchid star. She also used the forbidden technique for Ning Cheng, went around asking for pills for Ning Cheng, and even gave up her life for Ning Cheng. She and Ning Cheng laughed together, and she and Ning Cheng escaped together. They cultivated together, and wandered together. That day, when Ning Cheng came to the Grand Change Realm to find her, he had told her to cultivate. Since they could fall in love once, they could fall in love a second time. That day, Ning Cheng had also said to her that there was a kind of love that did not enter the samsara, regardless of time and space. No matter how strong the Grand Tao was, it could not sever it. If the Grand Tao cuts off that love, then we can do it again. If the Grand Tao stops us from doing it again, then I will cut off that Grand Tao. Ning Cheng was right. There was a kind of love that did not enter the samsara, regardless of time and space. No matter how strong the Grand Tao was, it could not sever it. However, what Ning Cheng said was also wrong. That kind of love was not the kind that could be severed. Once it was severed, it would not be the same love that she got back. She still remembered that when she was on the sifting orchid star, she had heard Ning Cheng sing a song, "How much love can be repeated?" What's more, standing in front of the severing consciousness stone today, she knew it even more clearly. Once she severed that love, she would never have a second time, nor would she ever start over again. Shi Qianghua looked at the severing consciousness stone and remained silent for a long time. Even if she could have a second time, why would she give up what she already had? I don't want to, and I can't bear to part with it. It was easy to lose it, but it would be too difficult to get it back. She stood next to the severing consciousness stone and did not move. Time passed by slowly, and she did not know how long it had been, but her hair slowly started to turn gray. At this moment, Shi Qianghua's eyes finally turned firm. She slowly raised her head and no longer looked at the severing consciousness stone. Instead, she walked straight into the depths of the distorted passage. How much love could be repeated? Even if it was 9 reincarnations, there would not be many opportunities for her to choose. Today, she could choose. What could be luckier than this? She chose her own heart. She did not want to sever the only love of her 10 reincarnations, nor did she want to sever the only precious memory of her 10 reincarnations. Just when Shi Qianghua took a step past the severing consciousness stone, a horrifying aura of the Grand Tao swept over. The endless mottled laws directly tore apart Shi Qianghua's Tao charm, which still retained a trace of her emotional memories. Shi Qianghua's embryonic world, which had not yet formed, stagnated at this moment. The violent Tao charm aura directly solidified Shi Qianghua's Tao intent, and Shi Qianghua's aura also solidified at this moment along with the violent Tao charm aura. A Tao integration perfection holy emperor might have an endless lifespan, but it would only take a moment for them to fall. Shi Qianghua maintained the posture of stepping past the severing consciousness stone and solidified at the beginning of the entire severing emotions reincarnation Tao. At this moment, she was like a statue, standing and looking at the vast and profound severing emotions reincarnation Tao. Her aura gradually dissipated, and her vitality also dissipated along with the aura within the severing emotions reincarnation Tao. Despite having her vitality depleting and being carved at the beginning of the severing emotions reincarnation Tao, Shi Qianghua's eyes still had a trace of longing. She did not leave behind anything precious in her 10 reincarnations. Only the love of her 9th reincarnation. Even if she had to use the 3rd step to exchange for it, she would not be willing. She never thought that she could find something that she had abandoned. Woo woo, the Tao charm aura circulated within the severing emotions reincarnation Tao. It was like the Tao charm of heaven and earth weeping, as if it could not understand why someone would come to the severing emotions reincarnation Tao and not cross the severing consciousness stone. In the vast void, Ning Cheng was sitting on top of a boulder that no one could use their spiritual consciousness to sweep over. The aura of the Great Tao formed a whirlpool around him. These whirlpools merged with his aura of the Great Tao, constantly comprehending and then merging again. His middle stage Tao integration realm continued to rise. At this moment, Ning Cheng closed his eyes and felt calm in his heart. He let the aura of the Great Tao fuse and let his strength continue to improve. As long as he had enough time, he could definitely step into the late-stage Tao integration realm in this place. Ning Cheng, who was immersed in the surging Tao charm, was about to step into the late-stage Tao integration realm when he suddenly felt a burst of annoyance. Ning Cheng opened his eyes abruptly and a stream of blood rushed to his throat. Puff! An arrow of blood spurted out, and Ning Cheng did not even have a chance to stop it. Ning Cheng sucked in a breath of cold air. Since obtaining the mysterious yellow bead and comprehending the mysterious yellow formless, he had never vomited blood during cultivation. But this time, he vomited blood for no reason and without any warning. He even felt a kind of panic in his heart, as if he had lost something that he cherished the most. The aura that he had accumulated to the point where he was about to break through to the middle stage Tao integration realm suddenly flowed out and returned to its original state. Ning Cheng suddenly frowned, before he carefully released his spiritual consciousness. Could someone be playing tricks in the place where he cultivated to make him feel uneasy? Duan Gantai wouldn't dare do it, and Chu Jiuyu had no enmity with him, so he wouldn't do such a thing. What's more, given the strength of these two people, it was impossible for them to play tricks around him without him discovering it. The only possibility was the remnant soul that had once hidden in his mysterious yellow bead. After a long time, Ning Qing retracted his spiritual consciousness. He did not find anything suspicious. He felt a dull pain in his heart, which made Ning Qing feel even more puzzled. After meditating for a long time, Ning Qing once again added a few defensive restrictions and a monitoring array formation to the place where he cultivated. Then, he continued to sit down and attack the late-stage Dao integration realm. In the face of such an opportunity, if he did not attack the late-stage Dao integration realm, he would fall further and further behind. The previously dissipated aura condensed again around Ning Cheng's body and slowly turned into a cocoon of the great Dao. The giant cocoon grew thicker and thicker, exuding a majestic origin Dao aura. Ning Qing suddenly stood up, and the Dao runes around him became more and more solid. The laws around him became so clear that they could be seen with the naked eye. Space-time transformed around him, and the Dao laws flowed under his feet. Ning Cheng's heart was at peace. He knew that he was about to step into the late-stage Dao integration realm. Not too far away from Ning Cheng, a thin and malicious-looking man suddenly stood up, as he stared at Ning Cheng's position with eyes that seemed to be spitting fire. He knew very well that Ning Cheng was about to step into the late-stage Dao integration realm. He wanted to rush over and take the opportunity to kill Ning Cheng. However, he managed to hold back his anger. At this time, he was very clear that compared to Ning Cheng, his strength was still lacking by a large margin. If he hadn't found the Uncun stone here, he would never have touched Ning Cheng so early. If he rushed over at this time, he would at most delay Ning Cheng from stepping into the late-stage Dao integration realm. He would not cause any harm to Ning Cheng. However, he would lose the opportunity to cultivate on the Uncun stone. Back then, Yi Mo and the current Ning Cheng were enemies that he would never let go of. He would definitely take back what belonged to him. Even if he couldn't take it back now, he would definitely take it back in the future. The flames of anger quickly subsided from the thin man's body. He slowly sat down and closed his eyes again. It was also a peerless opportunity for him to set foot on the Uncun stone and condense his Dao runes of the great Dao. He wanted to kill Yi Mo and Ning Cheng, so he couldn't easily waste such a peerless opportunity. It was never too late for an expert to take revenge. Chapter 1383. Ever since the creation indestructible axe had condensed and the remnant aura of the creation green lotus had appeared, heavens beyond had become the center of this universe. Experts from various planes and realms around heavens beyond had come to heavens beyond. Because of this, the realms of heavens beyond had been redivided. 10,000 years had passed and the forces in heavens beyond had long been fixed. Although the sect masters of the Black-Yellow sect and the Sacred Dao sect, Yi Mo, were not in heavens beyond, they were still the two leading sects in heavens beyond. Apart from that, heavens beyond had also formed the Heaven Gate Sacred Dao sect, the Three Essence Sacred sect, the Nine Heavens Divine sect, the Seven Aqua Divine sect, the Shouyi sect, the Jiao Yang sect, and the Bushang sect. After so many years, the Beyond of Heaven and Earth had entered the fastest development period and formed the first sacred Dao city in this vast universe. The universe was vast. Naturally, the Beyond of Heaven and Earth was not the only world, and the planes around it were not the only ones. At that moment, a flying Dharma treasure was cutting through the void and moving forward in the vast void that was almost uninhabited. It was a top-notch flying Dharma treasure with two people sitting at the front. One of them looked extremely young with a Dao modeling cultivation level and was dressed in colorful clothes. The other person was slightly older. Apart from his slightly dark skin, he also looked like a young man. Dao runes circulated around his body, making it difficult to see the level of his cultivation level at a glance. Second Master, we've been walking for so many years. How much longer until we arrive? The colorful-clothed young man could not help but ask. The dark-faced man's face sank. Remember, there will be no second master in the future. There will only be master and disciple. Cultivation is a long journey. If you want to take revenge, you must be patient. Without me, you would still be a cripple, let alone a Dao modeling. Yes, master. The colorful-clothed young man did not dare to say anything else. He hurriedly bowed and answered. After a long silence, the colorful-clothed young man asked carefully, "Master, if you obtain their supreme inheritance, you won't kill your grandfather, right?" "Don't worry. I won't kill him. I'll cripple his cultivation level and let him understand how I got here back then. I will make all his women follow me and let him see what it feels like to have his woman snatched away." The black-faced man looked at the vast void with a hint of ridicule in his eyes. The colorful-clothed youth subconsciously shivered. He suddenly felt that it was the right decision to follow this second master out. Even though he didn't believe that this cheap second master was his grandfather's match before, after experiencing so much together, he was already a little shaken. This second master was very strong, so strong that it was almost inconceivable. Moreover, his temperament was extreme. He had the temperament of, submit to me and prosper, oppose me and perish. The black-faced man's expression returned to normal. He patted the shoulder of the colorful-clothed youth and said, "Remember my words. Dignity and the respect of others don't depend on any background, but on your own strength. You see, if I didn't save you this time, you'd be dead. It was hard to repay kindness in this world, but revenge, it was too easy. If you want revenge, you have to trust me." "Yes." The young man's spirits were refreshed, and he tossed all the other thoughts aside. This was what he was thinking. How awe-inspiring and glorious he had been in the beyond of heaven and earth. However, because he was not strong enough, his awe-inspiring image had been shattered and he had been thrown back to the sacred Tao world like a dog. If he hadn't had some opportunities, he would have been better off dead. "Master, are the experts in the witch world really that strong? Why don't they fight for the gate of creation that you mentioned?" The colorful-clothed youth had already made up his mind to go to the witch world to obtain the witch race's inheritance. However, deep down, he was still somewhat worried. After all, Tao technique cultivation had left a deep impression on him. In his perception, only Tao technique cultivation was the most powerful technique in this universe. Once one cultivated a great divine power, it would be easy to overturn the vast void with a wave of one's hand. Did the witch world have such a technique? He had heard of the witch race's immortal soul. The black-faced man sneered. "They don't fight for the gate of creation because their path to the gate of creation has been sealed off. In other words, those cultivators don't want them to fight for the gate of creation, so they chase them to the edge of the universe. Of course, the fact that they don't cultivate their soul is a fatal weakness." But when the colorful-clothed youth heard this, the worry on his face deepened. The black-faced man glared at the colorful-clothed youth coldly. "But what? You want to say that since they were chased away, their strength must be ordinary. There's no need for us to cultivate their techniques, right? If you think that way, you can forget about taking revenge in this lifetime." The reason the witch race experts were chased away was not because they were weak, but because they were not good at scheming. They were chased away not because of their strength but because they were defeated by the schemes of those hypocrites. Furthermore, we don't just have to cultivate the witch race's divine powers. We also have to cultivate our soul and principal spirit. The witch world was just a tiny plane realm in the vast universe. In the vast universe, there were countless similar plane realms. However, it was different from other realms. The races in other realms would either give up their territory due to foreign invasions or move away due to the instability of the heaven-earth law. Ever since the witch race had arrived, they had never moved away. Instead, they had named this realm the witch world. Powerful strength made it impossible for any race or expert to occupy the witch world's territory. The witch world was located at the edge of the vast universe. Beyond that was a land of undeveloped chaos. However, the heaven-earth law here was stable and clear. The heaven-earth chi was also sufficient for development. Over the years, the witch world had become stronger and stronger. It had even become the ruler of this plane. Countless small races in the surrounding area had attached themselves to the witch world. The strongest expert in the witch world was the ancestor emperor. His name was Hong. Ever since the witch race had left the center of the universe and arrived at the edge of the vast universe, Ancestor Emperor Hong had been in seclusion in Mount Wu and had never come out. However, today, the ancestor emperor had come out of seclusion and gathered all the experts of the witch race to head to the divine Magus Palace. The divine Magus Palace was the most majestic building in the witch world. Although it was not very luxurious, it was considered the sturdiest place in the entire witch race. Only the most ancient experts of the witch race knew that the divine Magus Palace was one of the 3 greatest treasures of the witch race. At that moment, Ancestor Emperor Hong was sitting at the highest seat in the divine Magus Palace. As he watched the many experts of the witch race enter one after another, a trace of a smile finally appeared on his face. The witch race had been chased to the edge of the universe. Not only did they not perish, but they had also become stronger. This made him very satisfied. Back then, when they withdrew from the conflict, they did not let the witch race perish. The experts of the witch race who entered the divine Magus Palace bowed to Hong, then sat in their respective seats according to their ranks. Even though there were tens of thousands of people sitting in the divine Magus Palace, it was still very quiet. A few bell rings could be heard, and the divine Magus Palace, which was already quiet, became even quieter. Hong nodded his head in satisfaction and said slowly, "Ever since our witch race came to this land, we have always been self-disciplined and self-improving. Because of this, we are as strong as we are today." Recently, someone might have heard some rumors that have affected the quiet cultivation of the wizard tribe. As he said this, he looked at the long-haired man sitting first on his left and said, "Xian Ping, Chang has completely awakened, right? Go and bring him here." "Yes." The long-haired man bowed and responded, then turned and left. The many disciples of the witch race in the divine Magus Palace began to discuss softly. Not long later, the long-haired man called Xian Ping led a well-built man in. This man had extremely long arms. Not only was he well-built, but his head was also twice the size of an ordinary person. He looked like a ferocious tiger. "Chang Xiang greets Ancestor Emperor." After this man entered, he stood in the middle of the divine Magus Palace and bowed. Ancestor Emperor Hong was expressionless. He looked at Chang Xiang and said calmly, "Chang, back then, when you escaped from the witch world, your soul was destroyed. If not for a trace of your soul remaining in the divine Magus Palace, you would not have existed in this world. Our witch race spent a lot of effort to help you recover your physical body and soul. Instead of repaying the kindness of the witch race, you spread rumors and bewitched the hearts of our people. What are your intentions?" Chang Xiang bowed and said, "Chang Xiang is a member of the witch race, dead or alive. I will never spread rumors and bewitched my people. Ancestor Emperor, since the beginning of the chaotic universe, our witch race has been the most orthodox race. But as the most orthodox race, what did we get in return for humility and tolerance? We were chased out of the land of Tao and came to the edge of the universe, struggling at death's door. Chang Xiang's life is a small matter, but if our witch race continues to struggle at the edge of the universe, we will forever be pawns in the hands of others. Ancestor Hong, you can kill me, Chang Xiang, but you can't ignore what I said. Our witch race has to leave this place. If this goes on, our witch race will never have a chance to make a comeback." Ancestor Emperor Hong's expression turned ugly as he snorted coldly. At this moment, a woman standing on the right walked out and bowed. "Ancestor Emperor, Chang's words make some sense. If the rumors are true and we still don't participate in the second gate of fortune, our witch race will never have a chance to make a comeback." After this woman, several witch race experts stood out and said in unison, "Ancestor Emperor, if the gate of fortune doesn't open, it's good for our witch race to stay here. But once the gate of fortune opens, if our witch race doesn't go out and fight for it, we will indeed become pawns in the universe and become ants." Hong fell silent. After a long while, he sighed and said, "How could I not have thought of this? But our witch race does not cultivate the soul, so we are destined to be unable to participate in the fight for the gate of fortune. I have been in seclusion all these years to find a way for the witch race to cultivate the soul. Sigh, what a pity." Chang Xiang suddenly opened his mouth. If it wasn't for Hong, he would have started talking. Hong also saw Chang Xiang's actions. He stopped and said, "Chang, tell us what you saw and did before you died." Chapter 1384. Chang Xiang bowed respectfully once again before saying, "When I left the witch world, I spent countless years returning to the Tao cultivation center of the universe. Only then did I realize that the witch race's expulsion from the Tao cultivation center of the universe was premeditated. They were afraid of the witch race's powerful body, so they conspired to force us out." Hong nodded. He naturally knew what Chang Xiang was talking about. It was just that there were other people's conspiracies and the witch race's own considerations. When I arrived at Jiaoyang Mountain, I was just in time for the opening of the Gate of Fortune. I was very excited at the time because I participated in the battle for the opening of the Gate of Fortune. "Wait!" An extremely old man called out to Chang Xiang. Chang Xiang stopped and said respectfully, "Please ask, Ancestor Ji." The old man nodded and said, "Chang, you said that you participated in the first battle for the opening of the Gate of Fortune? According to what I know, although you are very strong, I'm afraid you were still lacking if you wanted to participate in the first battle for the opening of the Gate of Fortune." Chang Xiang blushed slightly and said, "Actually, I was exaggerating when I said that I participated in the grand array for the opening of the Gate of Fortune. I only witnessed the process of that great battle of creation. I relied on the strong physical body of the witch tribe to save my life in that great battle of creation. I saw the mysterious yellow Holy Lord perish with my own eyes. I saw the mysterious yellow bead's laws shatter and its origin overflow before falling in front of me." "What?" Upon hearing this, not only was Ancestor Ji shocked, but Ancestor Di Hong, who had a solemn expression, also stood up in shock. Almost everyone in the hall stared at Chang Xiang fervently. Everyone knew about the mysterious yellow bead. Almost everyone in the hall had heard of the mysterious yellow bead. Hong quickly calmed down and stared at Chang Xiang as he asked, "Chang, are you talking about the mysterious yellow bead that existed when our chaotic universe was first formed?" Although he knew that this was what Chang Xiang was talking about, he still asked. This showed how important the mysterious yellow bead was to him. Chang Xiang nodded and said in an equally solemn tone, "Yes, it is indeed the mysterious yellow bead. It was also because I obtained the mysterious yellow bead that I barely managed to survive and escape from the mountain gaze that the Gate of Fortune opened. Is the mysterious yellow bead still with you?" Although Hong knew that it was impossible, he still could not help but ask. Chang Xiang shook her head, "No. After I obtained the mysterious yellow bead, through the mysterious yellow origin aura, I was able to explore the witch clan's method of cultivating the spiritual soul. After that, my strength improved tremendously." "Did you find the method to cultivate the divine soul of my witch clan?" Hong was even more excited. The mysterious yellow bead was precious because it was a good fortune world. However, the sorcerer tribe's method of cultivating their souls was a form of rebirth, a form of nirvana. The physical strength of the witch race was immense. Even if they had divine abilities, they were all strength divine abilities. The only regret was that they were unable to cultivate their souls, and it was precisely because of this that the sorcerer tribe suffered greatly every time they fought with the cultivators. If there were countless ways to cultivate the divine soul, why would the wizard tribe hide in this corner for countless years? Ancestor Ji was also excited. He forcibly stabilized his voice and asked, "Did you lose the mysterious yellow bead when you fell?" "If that's the case, then even if my witch clan had to gather the strength of the entire clan, we would take back the mysterious yellow bead that belongs to our witch clan." Chang Xiang took in a deep breath and spoke again, "I underestimated the cunning of those cultivators. I actually thought that a person like the mysterious yellow holy master would fall in one go, allowing me to obtain the mysterious yellow bead. Was the fall of the mysterious yellow holy master fake? Or was the mysterious yellow bead fake?" Knowing that he had no qualifications to speak, Xian Ping, who invited Chang Xiang over, could not help but ask. Chang Xiang spoke up in a deep voice, "The mysterious yellow bead is real. If it was fake, I would not have been able to comprehend the witch clan's method of cultivating their souls, nor would I have been able to enhance my strength by several times. The fall of the mysterious yellow holy master's corporeal body was also real, but his spiritual soul was hidden in the mysterious yellow bead. When I strengthened my aura, I also nurtured his spiritual soul. For the mysterious yellow bead to fall by my side, it was intentional. Finally, one day, he made a move against me. Did the mysterious yellow holy master kill you? Hong frowned slightly. Although the mysterious yellow holy master was strong, if he really killed Chang Xiang, he, Hong, would not be able to talk to him. Chang Xiang sighed and said, if it was just killing me, it would have been fine. He deprived me of all my luck, robbed me of all my vitality and prospects. At that time, I realized why he threw the mysterious yellow bead out for me to pick up. Ancestor Ji frowned and asked, so the mysterious yellow bead is still in the hands of the mysterious yellow holy master? Chang Xiang replied, I don't know if the mysterious yellow bead is still in the hands of the mysterious yellow holy master, but I guess that he would not just use me. After he robbed me of my luck, he might continue to rob others of their luck. If so, he might even throw the mysterious yellow bead away to the next unlucky owner. Keep going. Hong shook his head, no, I know a little about the mysterious yellow holy master. At most, he would rob a few people's luck. Your luck is under the protection of my witch clan, which makes you a person with a great luck. In fact, you have the mysterious yellow bead and obtained the witch clan's method of cultivating one's spiritual soul. Even if your luck was deprived, it would not be considered a loss. If the mysterious yellow holy master were to throw away the mysterious yellow bead again, I'm afraid it would not be as simple as robbing your luck. After saying this, Hong fell silent. After a while, he suddenly said, Chang, teach the witch clan's method of cultivating one's spiritual soul and then go to the witch clan's holy tree to snatch back the luck that belongs to you. Humph, is the witch clan's luck so easy to snatch? Even you, the mysterious yellow holy master, can't do it. Ah. Chang Xiang looked at the ancestor emperor in surprise. His luck had been robbed, but in fact, his future had long been cut off. He did not expect that the ancestor emperor would let him go to the witch clan's holy tree to snatch the luck that belonged to him. He knew that the witch clan's holy tree contained the witch clan's luck, and he was not qualified to get close to it. Hong saw that Chang Xiang was pleasantly surprised and puzzled, so he softened his tone and said, Chang, your contribution to the witch clan is a milestone for our witch clan. Although you lost the mysterious yellow bead, you took back what you should have taken back the most. Moreover, the witch clan will still snatch the mysterious yellow bead back in the future and give it to you. After you snatch back your luck from the witch clan's holy tree, prepare to participate in the second battle of the Gate of Fortune. Ancestor Emperor. This time, Chang Xiang was not only pleasantly surprised, but also ecstatic. Our witch clan is finally going to rush out and fight for the Gate of Fortune. Hong nodded his head. Just as he was about to speak, he saw a witch clan disciple rushing to the entrance of the divine Magus palace. What's the matter? Hong's smile disappeared. The witch clan conference of the divine Magus palace was not allowed to be disturbed if there was nothing important. Since a disciple dared to enter at this time, it meant that there was indeed something important. Ancestor Emperor above, there are 2 Dao cultivators outside. That black-faced Dao cultivator said that our witch clan is about to be annihilated, and he specially came to help. That disciple hurriedly answered respectfully at the entrance of the hall. Hong snorted coldly, a Dao cultivator also dares to be so arrogant here. Go and lock him up. We'll talk later, ha ha ha. A maniacal laughter came from the entrance of the divine Magus palace. Following this maniacal laughter, a slightly hoarse voice said loudly, Ancestor Emperor, the second Gate of Fortune is about to open. I specially came to help the witch clan rise. This is not the way the witch clan treats me. Who are you? How dare you speak so arrogantly? Hong's voice had already calmed down. This Dao cultivator was very strong. He could feel it. The Gate of Fortune was about to open. It was best not to offend such an expert. I am the 9 Void Demon Master, Yi Zifeng. If Ancestor Hong is willing to be friends with me, I will wholeheartedly help the witch clan. If Ancestor Hong looks down on me, I will leave immediately. After saying this, Yi Zifeng had already appeared at the entrance of the divine Magus palace. Hong said indifferently, if that's the case, "Then Brother Yi, please come in." Yi Zifeng's voice was still calm. "The divine Magus Palace is an important place for the witch clan. How would an outsider like me dare to enter? I will wait outside. When Ancestor Hong is done, then we can talk in detail." Hong nodded and didn't try to persuade him. He knew that Yi Zifeng was an extremely cunning person. The reason why Yi Zifeng didn't enter the divine Magus Palace was not because it was an important place for the witch clan. It was because the divine Magus Palace was the most precious treasure of the witch clan. Once he entered, his fate would be in the hands of the witch clan. In the vast void that was originally empty, a boulder the size of a planet suddenly appeared. In the middle of the huge rock, rumbling Dao rhymes could be heard. A blue-robed man stood in the middle of the rumbling Dao rhymes. This huge rock appeared from the void because of the rumbling Dao rhymes. Within the rumbling Dao rhymes, all sorts of laws started to gather. A vast and ancient power spread out with the blue-robed man as the center. Following a long roar, the rumbling Dao rhymes and the laws fused together. The person who fused with the Dao rhymes was Ning Cheng, who had been cultivating on the Uncun Rock. After countless years of tempering and comprehending the Dao rhymes, he had finally stepped into the late stage of Dao integration. After Ning Cheng stepped into the late stage of Dao integration, the Dao rhymes around Ning Cheng on the Uncun Rock were still surging like a tide, showing no signs of subsiding. At this moment, his cultivation level was still rising crazily. The auras of the laws fused with his Dao rhymes as if there was no end to it. On the Uncun Rock, a little further away from Ning Cheng, the yellow-robed man stood up again. He stared fiercely at Ning Cheng's position. He knew that Ning Cheng had stepped into the late stage of Dao integration. This kind of cultivation power, this kind of majestic scene of Dao rhymes comprehension, was not something an ordinary cultivator could achieve. If the mysterious yellow bead was still with him, this advancement power and scene of comprehension would be his. Looking at Ning Cheng, whose cultivation level was still rising crazily, the yellow-robed man retracted his gaze. He reached out and carefully stroked the vast Uncun Rock. He had made up his mind. No matter what, he had to take away the Uncun Rock. He had to turn the Uncun Rock into his world. Only with an earth-shattering treasure like the Uncun Rock could he have the chance to take revenge. Chapter 1385. At the same time, in the void outside the Grand Essence Realm, in the depths of the land of broken laws, a barefoot woman in gauze robes floated in the void. Above her head was a golden bird that looked like it was standing on an imperial jade seal. If Ning Cheng were here, he would have definitely recognized the golden bird and the imperial jade seal as the ancient desolate wish butterfly. The ancient desolate wish butterfly was the inheritance treasure of the Blue True Hope tribe. After the First Good Fortune War, it had fallen in the graceful Star mainland and was picked up by Ning Cheng. Later, to thank Li, Ning Cheng gave the ancient desolate wish butterfly to her. However, Li accidentally revealed the existence of the ancient desolate wish butterfly, which ended up being snatched away by Lan Bing. And this barefoot woman in gauze robes was none other than Lan Bing. Li had also been rescued by Ning Cheng when he entered the land of broken laws for the second time. According to reason, the ancient desolate wish butterfly was the #1 treasure of the Hope tribe. It was used to converge the power of hope for cultivation and worship. But at this time, Lan Bing, who was wearing gauze robes, kept sending out strands of essence blood. She wanted to fuse the ancient desolate wish butterfly into her own Dao intent. Once the ancient desolate wish butterfly was fused into a Dao intent, it would disappear forever. She would then become a sinner of the Hope tribe. However, Lan Bing didn't have the slightest scruples. Her thoughts and essence blood continued to fuse with the ancient desolate wish butterfly. Her body had long since been wrapped in the power of hope, and the Dao charm of the power of hope kept roaring. At the same time, some inexplicable Dao charm auras appeared in the originally lawless place. The ancient Dao charm intent of the ancient desolate wish butterfly turned into a little bit of Dao charm light that fell on Lan Bing's body. As if it was praying, Lan Bing's aura continued to rise. When Ning Cheng saw Lan Bing in the land of broken laws, she already felt a bit cold. But at this time, she looked even more emotionless, like an ice sculpture. Only the powerful Tao charm aura continued to spread out and then continued to rise. A vast and boundless aura of decay descended from the void and began to cover the entire land of broken laws. Some of the cultivators hiding in the land of broken laws to comprehend spirit techniques or fleeing for their lives looked at the aura of decay descending from the vast void in panic. They didn't know what to do. They could only watch the vast and majestic aura of decay fall on their bodies. Then, they watched their bodies slowly age, their essence, blood and spiritual sense fade into nothingness. Their bodies turned into dry firewood and disappeared from this world. Valley of Peace. This was the place where cultivators gathered the most laws in the land of broken laws. It was also where Ning Cheng had escaped disaster. The Valley Lord of the Valley of Peace, Saiku Ziyuan, had been here for countless years, all for the sake of comprehending the breaking law mystique and at the same time, to pass it down. At this moment, he was setting up a dojo and imparting the Tao laws he had comprehended. Streams of weakening aura descended, causing him to stop preaching and look at the endless void in shock. As the endless aura of decay landed on his body, it started to decay his physical body and soul. Even his Tao runes started to decay at the same time. Saiku Ziyuan finally understood what was happening. He suddenly stood up and shouted, "A supreme powerhouse is crossing the third step of heaven and earth, great decline here. This person has a ruthless heart and wants to wither away all life in the entire land of broken laws. Everyone, hurry up and escape from the land of broken laws. We can't stay here any longer." Before Saiku Ziyuan could finish his sentence, a trail of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth, and his entire body turned ashen. Even with his strength, he wouldn't be able to hold on for long in this state of decay. Many cultivators in the dojo frantically tried to escape from the valley. But in the face of this terrifying heaven and earth great decline, most people couldn't get out of the valley and turned into lifeless shriveled bodies. Lan Bing's face remained calm as she stood in the void above the land of broken laws. At this moment, the ancient desolate wish butterfly gradually turned illusory, and rays of praying Tao runes overflowed from the ancient desolate wish butterfly and fell onto Lan Bing's body. The originally lawless land of broken laws now had endless laws condensing around Lan Bing's body. A powerful oppressive aura spread out. Even without the heaven and earth great decline, few people could resist such a powerful oppressive aura. As the ancient desolate wish butterfly disappeared, Lan Bing's strength continued to grow. At this moment, everything in the land of broken laws seemed to have turned into nothingness, and only her existence was so conspicuous. Lan Bing's originally picturesque face had turned even more exquisite at this moment. It's just that the life aura exuding from the painting was ethereal and elusive, making people unable to feel even the slightest bit of vitality. My world sacrifices with my fate. My world sacrifices with my great Tao. My world looks down on the vast. Under Lan Bing's chanting, the Tao runes began to fuse together. Heaven and earth began to rumble, and the land of broken laws issued bursts of cracking sounds. When the ancient desolate wish butterfly above her head completely disappeared, Lan Bing suddenly opened her eyes. Her unparalleled face had no trace of emotion except for a kind of extreme poignant beauty. At this moment, she took another step into the void, raised her hand, and waved. Then, she chanted without any emotion, "My wish butterfly world, complete." Boom boom boom, rumbling sounds rang out, and the land of broken laws, which had stood for God knows how long, began to collapse at this moment. Laws of void collapse spread out, and some of the nearby planets were completely blown apart by these collapsing laws. A pair of golden wings grew out from Lan Bing's back. She stood in the void, looking at the vast and boundless distance with a trace of sarcasm at the corner of her mouth. At this moment, in her eyes, everything was like an ant, and everything was like ashes. All the ants who had once offended her, turned into ashes. Immediately after, the golden wings behind her flapped slightly, and the land of broken laws, which had already begun to collapse, turned into an avalanche. Perhaps some of her Hope Clan's disciples were among them, or perhaps some of the places where her Hope Clan had hidden for countless years. But at this moment, in her eyes, they were all ants. Similarly, on the unkun stone, Ning Cheng condensed the Tao runes around him. Just as he was about to step into the peak of Tao integration, he suddenly felt his mind tremble violently. It was the trembling of the Grand Essence Realm's protective Grand Array, caused by the bombardment of peerless Great Tao laws. The Grand Essence Realm was his lair, and both Rulan and Luofei were in the Grand Essence Realm. Once the Grand Essence Realm was destroyed, he would never be able to forgive himself. Because he was the one who arranged the Grand Essence Realm's protective Grand Array. When he returned to the Grand Essence Realm for the last time, he had integrated a trace of his soul into the Grand Essence Realm's protective Grand Array. Unless the Grand Essence Realm's protective Grand Array suffered a powerful attack, he wouldn't feel it. Even with Kong Zai staying in the Grand Essence Realm, someone still dared to attack the Grand Essence Realm. From this, it could be seen how powerful the person attacking the Grand Essence Realm was. Thinking of this, Ning Qing no longer had the mood to continue condensing Tao runes. He directly tore open the void and rushed out of the Uncun Stone. What's going on? The moment Ning Qing rushed out of the Grand Essence Realm, the yellow-robed man on the Uncun Stone noticed it. Although he hadn't seen Ning Cheng's progress with his own eyes, he had felt it personally. He was sure that Ning Cheng only needed one more step to step into the peak of Tao integration and then reach the full circle of Tao integration without any hindrance. But when Ning Cheng was about to step into the peak of Tao integration, he actually gave up on the Uncun Stone, which was a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. It was simply inconceivable. Now that Ning Cheng had left, the remaining two little things posed no threat to him. He knew that these two little things' cultivation progress on the Uncun Stone wasn't any slower than Ning Cheng's. Not only did they succeed in Tao integration, but they were also about to step into the middle stage of Tao integration. But these two people didn't have the mysterious yellow bead, nor did they have a good fortune treasure. At most, they could cultivate to the full circle of Tao integration and then scram. This wouldn't affect him fusing with the Uncun Stone and turning it into his own treasure. Ning Cheng's speed had reached its limit. He had also thought about bringing Rulan, Luofei, and the others with him. However, after knowing that the mysterious yellow bead might be a conspiracy, he had always felt a little afraid. If he didn't kill the Lord of Heaven and Yellow, he wouldn't feel completely at ease bringing his family with him. Kong Zai, who had been staying in Grand Essence Mountain, felt very comfortable. Just as he had said, not only would he not go to the Great Ultimate Realm again, but he didn't even want to go to the Great Ultimate Realm. He was very happy in Grand Essence Realm. Although he knew that Shen Yun wouldn't give up on the Great Ultimate Realm, Shen Yun wouldn't dare to do so, at least before Ning Qing returned. When Ning Qing returned, Shen Yun would probably become more well-behaved. More than 10,000 years had passed since Ning Qing left, and he was sure that Ning Cheng's strength had taken a big leap. Kong Peak was the mountain peak where Kong Zai lived after coming to Grand Essence Mountain. He named this mountain peak Kong Peak. Kong Peak didn't have any defensive array restrictions, and anyone could come and go without any restrictions. It was just like Kong Zai's temperament, unfettered and unrestrained. At this moment, Kong Zai's Tai Chi Human King scroll was suspended on top of Kong Peak. Kong Zai was lying on the scroll, feeling the warm sunlight and feeling happy. Senior Kong, this junior is Chu Manha. Chu Manha's voice came over. Kong Zai sat up. He knew why Chu Manha had come to him. Since he scared away Shen Yun, Chu Manha had been asking him about various cultivation issues. He also gave her pointers without the slightest bit of impatience. Just when Kong Zai wanted to ask Chu Manha what problem she had this time, the entire Grand Essence Realm's defensive array suddenly shook. Kong Zai suddenly put away the Tai Chi Human King scroll and swept out with his spiritual consciousness. This kind of violent shaking of the defensive array couldn't be caused by ordinary means. This was the impact of top-notch Law Dao runes. In other words, a peerless powerhouse had bombarded the Grand Essence Realm's defensive array. Kong Zai immediately thought of Xing Shi. Only this woman had such an ability. Chu Manha also felt the bombardment of the Grand Essence Realm's defensive array, and her expression also changed. Senior Kong, someone attacked my Grand Essence Realm's defensive array. I'll go and greet. Kong Zai waved his hand, no, I'll go and see. Even if we mobilize the Grand Essence Dao Court army, it would be useless against such an expert. Kong Zai himself was a creation realm powerhouse. Therefore, he could feel that even he couldn't do such a thing to the Grand Essence realm's defensive array. It was an attack from a supreme Dao cultivator. Ning Qing didn't know when Grand Essence had provoked such an existence. Chapter 1386. Senior Kong, why isn't anyone here? Chu Manhe followed Kong Zai out of the Grand Essence defensive array and looked at the vast void before asking in confusion. Kong Zai also frowned. His spiritual consciousness swept out into the void, and after a while, he said with a solemn voice, I'm afraid that there's a powerhouse at the third step of Dao confirming in this void. At this point, Kong Zai's words suddenly stopped, and a look of surprise appeared on his face. What's going on? Senior Kong? Chu Manhe asked quickly when she saw Kong Zai's expression. Kong Zai replied with a solemn voice, I was right. There's indeed a powerhouse creating a realm in this void. Moreover, the place where he created the realm is the Land of Broken Laws. Land of Broken Laws? Chu Manhe repeated. She knew about this place. Ning Qing had even told her about it. When she had time, she could go to this place and explore it. Kong Zai nodded with an even more solemn expression, yes, but the Land of Broken Laws has already collapsed. If I'm not wrong, the collapse of the Land of Broken Laws is due to this powerhouse stepping into the third step of creating a realm there. No wonder the Grand Essence realm's protective Grand Array kept shaking. It's the Dao charm fluctuations formed by this powerhouse's realm creation. Just the Dao charm fluctuations caused by stepping into the third step had shaken the Grand Essence realm's protective Grand Array. From this, it showed how powerful this powerhouse was at the third step of Dao confirming. Stepping into the third step in a place without any laws. Chu Manhe sucked in a breath of cold air. Kong Zai's knowledge was much better than Chu Manhe's. After listening to Chu Manhe's words, he explained, most of those who succeed in creating realms with complete laws are false realms and false realms. This person can create his own world in a place without laws and successfully step into the third step of creating a realm. This shows that he's a peerless powerhouse. I'm not his opponent. Chu Manhe sucked in a breath of cold air. She knew about Kong Zai's strength very well. This person was a true third-step powerhouse, and a reincarnation of a powerhouse at that. Even Kong Zai said that he wasn't this person's opponent, which showed how strong this person was. Fortunately, this powerhouse didn't come to the Grand Essence realm. Otherwise, the Grand Essence realm would have become the second Land of Broken Laws. Fortunately, he didn't come to the Grand Essence realm. I wonder if he saw the Grand Essence realm. Chu Manhe felt slightly relieved and subconsciously spoke up. In fact, she also knew that the other party must have seen the Grand Essence realm. Kong Zai shook his head, this person must have seen the Grand Essence realm. Most likely, this person didn't come because he has more important things to do. He must have reached the third step at this time to prepare for the opening of the creation gate. A world with incomplete laws like the Grand Essence realm meant nothing to him. Unless he has a grudge against the Grand Essence realm. Kong Zai guessed that this expert had most likely gone to the beyond of heaven and earth. The Gate of Fortune was about to open. Even if everyone knew that the Gate of Fortune would still open in the mountain gaze, they were still shocked. However, it was still beneficial to occupy a place in the beyond of heaven and earth. If the Gate of Creation did not open in the mountain gaze, they could be the first to reach the opening place from the beyond of heaven and earth. Kong Zai, who attacked Taisu? While Kong Zai and Chu Manhe were talking, another figure rushed out and landed not far from Kong Zai. When Chu Manhe saw this figure, she was shocked. She subconsciously took a step back and said vigilantly, Great Tao Lord, how did you come out? Kong Zai smiled at Chu Manhe. Don't worry. Shen Yun used to merge with the Grand Essence realm. The defense array he set up is mainly against attacks from the outside. When we came out just now, given Shen Yun's ability, it wouldn't take much effort to follow us out. Shen Yun looked at Chu Manhe and snorted coldly. The Grand Essence realm was his realm, yet he had to be questioned by a puny Tao integration sacred emperor. This was simply outrageous. Then, he thought about how Tao Lord Proud Dance had stayed in the Grand Essence Mountain and not gone back. He felt even more depressed. Xinyun, don't look so fierce. The Grand Essence realm is not the Grand Essence realm that you merged with. It belongs to all the Grand Essence realm. Kong Zai couldn't stand it anymore and said calmly. Xinyun knew that he was not Kong Zai's opponent before the Grand Essence realm was completely restored. He could only swallow his anger and ask again, what happened before? In any case, he still cared about Grand Essence. Kong Zai was just about to speak when he heard a cold voice. It was this king who did it. The voice stopped abruptly, and a chilling gaze fell on Kong Zai. Lan Bing addressed herself as this king, which was different from Xiao Xinxi. Xiao Xinxi only addressed herself as this king, while Lan Bing was the real Lan Qinyuan. The reason why she stopped at this time was that she felt a more powerful emperor aura from Kong Zai. If her king was a nouveau riche, then Kong Zai was the human king's aura inherited from the emperor's bloodline. You have the Tai Chi human king art. Are you Kong Zai? Lan Bing spoke out Kong Zai's name. Kong Zai was shocked. He didn't think that his name was so famous that even a supreme powerhouse could recognize him. This woman looked as beautiful as a peerless painting, but she was so cold that she didn't even have a trace of vitality. This kind of beauty made people panic. Kong Zai knew that this woman recognized him not because he was famous, but because of Kong Zai's Tai Chi human king art. Hand over the human king art, and I'll give you a chance to reincarnate. The woman's voice was still cold, without any anger. Kong Zai laughed. There's only a dead Kong Zai, not a Kong Zai who begs for mercy. If you want to make a move, then go ahead. As he spoke, Kong Zai's figure moved slightly, and a huge book with a vast emperor aura appeared above his head. It really is the Tai Chi human king art. The woman's eyes lit up, and the killing intent around her became even more dense. There's still me, Xinyun. Seeing that Kong Zai was going to fight this woman alone, Xinyun knew that he had to go. From the vast Tao rune laws around this woman, Xinyun was sure that even if he merged his realms, he might not be this woman's match. Moreover, he and Kong Zai hadn't noticed this woman's arrival at all. If he didn't make a move, he would die after Kong Zai was killed. After saying that, Xinyun also took a step forward and stood with Kong Zai. A similar huge book floated above his head. Unlike Kong Zai's book, his book was filled with a vast and heavy earth aura. Kong Zai laughed. Xinyun, I've looked down on you for many years, but you've finally shown some courage. Even if you know that you won't feel any better after I die, it's still worth it for the five of us to roam the five Tai together. Xinyun gave a cold snort and ignored Kong Zai. Instead, he just stared at Lan Bing. Lan Bing exclaimed, I actually saw the Grand Essence Earth art again. By the way, are you a Grand Tao Lord? She had heard that the Tai Chi human king art and the Grand Essence Earth art were both branches of an invisible cultivation method. But she didn't expect to see two at once. No matter who you are, please leave the Grand Essence realm. Otherwise, even if you kill me, Kong Zai, Tao Lord Grand Essence won't let you go when he returns. Kong Zai didn't think that he and Xinyun could deal with Lan Bing together. But from the powerful Tao runes around Lan Bing, he knew that even if he and Xinyun joined forces, they wouldn't be Lan Bing's opponent. Moreover, Lan Bing's power of hope seemed to contain the aura of fate and the great Tao of karma and power of hope. She's from the Blue True Hope tribe, and she should cultivate the art of fate. But the power of hope aura around her is the strongest I've ever seen in my life. Xinyun had more insight than Kong Zai. She could already tell Lan Bing's origin from the Tao rune's fluctuations around Lan Bing. You have a good eye. Give it to me. Lan Bing didn't move. Instead, a powerful Tao rune aura descended. The power of hope aura rolled towards Kong Zai and Xinyun. At this moment, Kong Zai felt the human king scroll's aura getting tied up. He could only struggle slowly. Shin Yun's current strength was a level lower than Kong Zai's, which made it even more difficult for her. Chu Manha, the weakest among them, was forced to sit on the ground, and her Dao runes scattered. Kong Zai and Shin Yun had fought together many times. Therefore, when the two saw this situation, they understood that this woman's power of hope had reached an unimaginable level. Moreover, the other party hadn't even extended her realm boundary. Once she did, the two would find it even more difficult. Kong Zai glanced at Shin Yun, and almost at the same time, the two let out a roar. The Tai Chi Human King art, and the Grand Essence Great Earth Secret art burst out with a white light at the same time. The two lights fused together and directly dispersed Lan Bing's oppressive Dao runes. The pressure around them immediately lightened, and the white light turned into a white Dao light. It directly passed through Lan Bing's protective domain and left a trail of blood on Lan Bing's body. At the same time, Kong Zai and Shin Yun also retreated a few dozen feet, their faces pale. The murderous aura on Lan Bing's face condensed into a layer of frost at this time. She didn't expect Kong Zai and Shin Yun to be so powerful. They even injured her. She didn't even look at her injuries. Instead, she stepped forward in the void and put her hand on her forehead. An imperial jade seal with bursts of Sanskrit sounds blasted out from her forehead. This imperial jade seal instantly turned into a huge golden seal that suppressed all directions. The golden seal's aura enveloped the entire void on this side. Even the Grand Essence realm was shrouded by this golden seal. The billowing Dao runes of the power of hope swirled around Lan Bing's body, and waves of murderous intent almost tore through space. This time, she was truly enraged. Kong Zai and Shin Yun's expressions changed. Once this seal fell, not to mention the three of them, even the entire Grand Essence realm would turn into nothingness under this seal. This woman was truly ruthless. No wonder even the land of broken laws turned into ruins when she reached the third step. Kong Zai no longer cared about anything else. The Emperor aura in the Tai Chi Human King scroll continued to rise, and the Dao runes around him continued to condense. The next moment, the Tai Chi Human King scroll turned into a huge shield screen, wanting to block this vast murderous aura. Shin Yun's expression also turned ugly. He knew very well that with his and Kong Zai's strength, they couldn't stop this woman's anger. But if this seal fell, the entire Grand Essence realm would turn into dust. He really didn't want the Grand Essence realm to turn into dust until the last moment. The Grand Essence Great Earth Scroll also grew heavy and condensed all of his Dao runes. He wanted to block this woman's destructive blow with Kong Zai. Chapter 1387. Boom, the violent Dao charm blasted the void apart, and the rumbling sound of laws shattering echoed endlessly. The violent aura of power of hope and the spear intent swept through the void, and the two auras continued to explode in the void, tearing cracks in the void one after another. What surprised Kong Zai and Shin Yun was that they didn't suffer any impact. Even the defensive scrolls that they had desperately brought out were safe and sound. Ha, Ning Cheng, I knew you were back. Kong Zai suddenly laughed with a smug tone. Only then did Shin Yun see a young man in linen robes standing in front of them. This young man in linen robes held a blue long spear in his hand and stood in the void opposite the cold woman. Obviously, it was this young man who had blocked the woman's terrifying power of hope with his spear. Shin Yun's heart trembled. Ning Cheng. It was the Ning Cheng that Kong Zai warned him about, the Ning Cheng that he wanted to use. Now, Ning Cheng had returned. The little cultivator that he once wanted to make use of had now grown at a speed that far exceeded his expectations. Even at his peak, he could barely reach this level of strength. Cold sweat oozed out of his back, and Shin Yun's heart turned gloomy. With an expert like Ning Cheng around, how could he merge with the Grand Essence realm? Not to mention merging with the Grand Essence realm, it would be difficult to even keep his life. It wasn't until this moment that he understood what Kong Zai had said to him before. It wasn't an exaggeration. In fact, it was a bit suspicious. Ning Cheng's strength was already beyond his control. It was laughable that he still wanted to use Ning Cheng to repair the Grand Essence realm, and then, Ning Qing turned around and smiled at Kong Zai. "Brother Kong, thank you." After saying that, he nodded at Xin Yun and Chu Manhe, who was beside him. Only then did he look at the cold Lan Bing in front of him. "Lan Bing, should I call you Tribe King Lan Qinyuan or Ancient Desolate Wish Butterfly?" Since Ning Qing appeared and blocked her power of hope with his spear, Lan Bing had been in a state of shock. She naturally knew her own strength. She thought that if she met Ning Qing again, she could kill him in an instant. But the fact was that Ning Cheng's spear not only easily blocked her attack, but the suppression of the Dao charm also prevented her realm from crushing it. Ning Cheng was just a Dao integration final stage Holy Emperor. How could he be so powerful? What do you mean? Lan Bing's heart shook violently, but her tone remained calm. Since Ning Cheng was so powerful, couldn't she kill him even after creating the world? As long as her boundary could wrap around Ning Cheng, she would still have a chance to kill him. "Brother Ning, I'm afraid this person isn't inferior to Xing Shi." "He's extremely powerful," Kong Zai said from the side. Ning Qing showed a faint smile. "She might not be as good as Xing Shi, but I'm afraid that the person who obtained her would not be any weaker than Xing Shi. It's just that this power of will is strange, it's really hard to block it." Ning Cheng had already experienced the strangeness of the power of hope a long time ago. Although it was a fact that Kong Zai and Xin Yun weren't as strong as Lan Bing, it also had something to do with the power of hope. The one who got her. Not only Kong Zai, but even Xin Yun, who was unsettled, was also surprised and puzzled. Ning Cheng looked at Lan Bing calmly and replied, "I've seen this person before. She's the king of the Blue True Hope tribe, called Lan Bing. Originally, I still had a bright future ahead of me. Back then, someone I knew also asked me to let her go. But this person destroyed her own future by fusing with the ancient desolate wish butterfly's creation realm. Isn't this courting death? She fused with the ancient desolate wish butterfly's creation realm?" Xin Yun forgot his own situation and spoke out in surprise. He had heard of the ancient desolate wish butterfly before. It was a supreme treasure containing the power of will. "How did you know?" Lan Bing also stared at Ning Cheng in surprise. Only she knew that she had fused with the ancient desolate wish butterfly's creation realm. So how did Ning Cheng know about it? Ning Cheng laughed. "I was the one who returned the ancient desolate wish butterfly to the Hope tribe. I've also refined a part of it. Tell me, why would I hand it over to the Hope tribe instead of continuing to refine it? This kind of treasure is no less than a Xiantian treasure and is even close to the level of primal chaos." "Why?" Lan Bing asked subconsciously. "Why?" "It's because the ancient desolate wish butterfly is a weapon containing the power of will. This kind of weapon can only be used for worship and continuously accumulate the power of will from the believers of heaven and earth. Over the countless years, the power of will contained in the ancient desolate wish butterfly is unknown. You actually dared to fuse with the ancient desolate wish butterfly, condense your own Tao, and create the wish butterfly realm. If you're not courting death, then what is? If the ancient desolate wish butterfly could fuse with the creation realm so easily, would it be your turn?" Ning Qing spoke with sarcasm. To figure out the power of will, he had started studying the hope-powered jade seal the moment he obtained it. It wasn't until he reached primordial chaos that he vaguely sensed it. The ancient desolate wish butterfly wasn't that easy to use. Even if it was used as a weapon, it wouldn't be a good thing. Because of this, he never continued to refine the ancient desolate wish butterfly after using it once. Later, after he reached Dao integration, this thought became even clearer. After stepping into the late-stage Dao integration realm on the Unkun stone, his Dao intent became clearer, and he gained a clear understanding of the Dao runes of heaven and earth. At this moment, when he fought against Lan Bing, he realized that the main reason why Lan Bing was so powerful was not because of Lan Bing, but because she fused with the ancient desolate wish butterfly to create the wish butterfly realm. Perhaps this wasn't Lan Bing's strongest moment. Once she completely fused with the ancient desolate wish butterfly and formed the wish butterfly realm, she wouldn't be much weaker than Xing Shi. Kong Zai laughed. "I understand now. This woman will eventually become the ancient desolate wish butterfly's spirit, and then become a supreme powerhouse's weapon. Ning Qing sighed and said, if I'm not wrong, that should be the case. She still has her consciousness at this moment. Didn't you notice that she doesn't have the slightest bit of vitality? Once her consciousness disappeared, she would completely become the spirit of a magic treasure. At that time, the ancient desolate wish butterfly would become even more powerful. I'm afraid. Ning Qing suddenly thought of the good fortune divine spear. This ancient desolate wish butterfly was another version of the good fortune divine spear. Once it advanced to its peak, perhaps only the good fortune indestructible axe could chop it down. Wish butterfly's spirit. Ning Qing suddenly thought of his mysterious yellow bead. According to the void soul he met in the slaughter realm, the mysterious yellow bead might have been abandoned by the good fortune sacred master and then used to search for a good fortune spirit. Could this ancient desolate wish butterfly be the same? But which powerhouse would abandon it in order to search for a wish butterfly's spirit? But this idea was a bit too ridiculous. Ning Qing was sure of one thing. Whether or not the ancient desolate wish butterfly was intentionally abandoned by a powerhouse, Lan Bing would eventually become the ancient desolate wish butterfly's spirit. It's true. This woman didn't seem like a living being the moment she arrived. It turns out she's about to become a spiritual god. Kong Zai nodded, agreeing with Ning Cheng's words. When he saw Lan Bing, he felt an aura of death. She didn't have the slightest bit of human vitality, just like the skin of a beauty in a painting. Lan Bing trembled, you dare slander me, I'll kill you. Ning Qing slightly raised the good fortune divine spear in his hand and spoke with an unhurried tone, I've been waiting for you. Hurry up, don't let me wait too long. He was sure that he wasn't slandering Lan Bing. The only reason Lan Bing still retained her consciousness was because the wish butterfly realm had just formed. Contrary to Ning Cheng's expectations, Lan Bing didn't make a move despite her murderous appearance. Instead, she stood in place. Her heart was also in a state of turmoil, she even vaguely felt that Ning Cheng's words were true. Although she was the queen of the Blue True Hope tribe, she didn't understand much because of her age. After fusing with the ancient desolate wish butterfly and creating a realm, she could only feel the endless power within it. If Ning Qing hadn't mentioned it before, she wouldn't have felt it. But now that Ning Qing mentioned it, she realized that she couldn't completely control the wish butterfly realm. She had initially thought that this was because the realm she had just formed wasn't stable. As long as her realm stabilized, this situation wouldn't happen. But now she vaguely understood that it wasn't the case. Perhaps it wasn't the ancient desolate wish butterfly that formed her realm, but she would turn into a part of the ancient desolate wish butterfly and eventually form a more powerful ancient desolate wish butterfly. Lan Bing knew that her trembling wasn't due to anger, but fear. It was no wonder that she had the urge to worship him after she created the realm of creation. Previously, she had thought that it was a result of her strength skyrocketing and overconfidence. Thinking of this, Lan Bing's figure suddenly flashed and turned into a void Dao light before disappearing in an instant. Ning Cheng, on seeing Lan Bing leave, quickly said to Kong Zai, Brother Kong, please help me look after my Grand Essence Mountain. I'm going to kill this person. After saying that, Ning Cheng didn't wait for Kong Zai to speak and followed Lan Bing and disappeared. Ning Cheng was determined to kill Lan Bing. Not only was Lan Bing powerful, but she also had a ruthless heart. Now that she knew that she would become the ancient desolate wish butterfly's spirit, she would definitely go back to the Grand Essence realm and destroy it. Only by destroying Grand Essence realm could she get some compensation for her perverted vengeance. How could Ning Cheng let such a thing happen? In that case, he had to kill Lan Bing. He couldn't guard the Grand Essence realm all the time. Who knew when Lan Bing would turn into the ancient desolate wish butterfly's spirit? How could one guard against thieves for 1,000 days? What's more, even if Lan Bing turned into the ancient desolate wish butterfly's spirit, the powerhouse who obtained the ancient desolate wish butterfly might destroy the Grand Essence realm to help the ancient desolate wish butterfly's spirit. Ning Cheng would never let such a thing happen. He had to kill Lan Bing. Ning Cheng had never liked the Blue True Hope tribe, which made him feel a little strange. He's Tao Lord Ning Cheng. After Ning Cheng and Lan Bing chased after him, Shen Yun took in a deep breath and asked in surprise. Naturally, he's Tao Lord Ning Cheng. Chu Manhe, who had already recovered, spoke up in a cold voice. She still had a good relationship with Tao Lord Proud Dance. Because of this, she knew that Shen Yun hadn't given up the idea of merging with the Grand Essence realm. Kong Zai also nodded, yes, he's Ning Cheng. If I'm not wrong, Brother Ning hasn't reached the third step yet. Even so, Brother Shen, do you think you have a chance to merge with the Grand Essence realm? Shen Yun's mouth was full of bitterness as he shook his head in a daze. The goal he had struggled for countless years suddenly turned into bubbles. He didn't even know what to do next. Chapter 1388. After tearing apart several interfaces, Lan Bing's heart was filled with hostility. Ning Cheng had destroyed everything she had. Even if she couldn't kill Ning Cheng, she would destroy the Grand Essence realm. But then she felt that something was wrong. Did Ning Cheng chase after her? She immediately stood in the void and looked at Ning Cheng, who had just arrived. What do you want? Lan Bing held back the fire in her heart. She hadn't gone to destroy the Grand Essence realm yet, nor had she gone to find trouble with Ning Cheng. She never expected that Ning Cheng would take the initiative to find trouble with her. Ning Cheng landed not far from Lan Bing, and the Good Fortune Spirit Spear appeared in his hand. Lan Bing, I'll give you two options. The second is to corrode your realm, and then. You want me to commit suicide? Lan Bing's tone became even colder. The Taoist rhyme of the power of will around her caused the surrounding void to fluctuate. Ning Cheng spoke up in a light voice, if you take the second path, then you would still have a chance of survival. Ha! Blue Ice's harsh laughter reverberated back and forth in the domain of the two. She knew that the second path Ning Cheng spoke of was the path to survival. Ning Cheng wanted her to degenerate her realm, which meant that he wanted her to reincarnate. This reincarnation was not the reincarnation of the Great Tao, but the reincarnation of life and death. After reincarnation, her future would no longer have anything to do with Lan Bing. How could she, Lan Bing, choose such a reincarnation? Even if she, Lan Bing, really became the spirit of the wish butterfly, she didn't want to reincarnate as an ordinary ant without any memories of her previous life. What was the difference between that and death? Die for me. Before the laughter ended, the huge wish power seal condensed once again. Unlike the previous bombardment of the Grand Essence realm, Lan Bing's hope-powered seal condensed into a single point and blasted towards Ning Cheng. As the billowing power of hope surged through the void, Ning Cheng's Tao Charm domain started to tear apart under the power of hope. An invisible butterfly-shaped domain slowly closed up around the two of them in the infinite distance. The domain's aura was blocked by the surging power of hope that wrapped around Ning Cheng, without even the slightest sign of it closing. A call from the deepest part of his soul reached Ning Cheng's consciousness. The power of hope started to corrode Ning Cheng's protective domain and corrode Ning Cheng's fighting will. It was constantly calling Ning Cheng to prostrate himself, to pray, to worship, and even to sacrifice his life. Only in this way could there be great fortune and longevity. Although Ning Cheng looked calm on the surface, but his heart felt as if it had been poured with boiling oil. This kind of terrifying spiritual willpower rushed in, and even his willpower was constantly shaking. If it were someone with a weaker cultivation base and willpower, they might have already prostrated themselves on the ground and prayed to the ethereal great immortality. His powerful will blocked the rolling power of hope, causing Ning Cheng's expression to turn even calmer. The Good Fortune divine spear in his hand drew across the void, rolling up a spear intent pattern. Lan Bing was as calm as before, but she was sneering in her heart. To an ordinary creation realm expert, the vast and boundless corrosion of great wish energy would have long since caused them to surrender. Even if Ning Cheng remained calm, she knew that Ning Cheng was forcibly enduring the torment of the corrosion of the power of hope. She would no longer underestimate Ning Cheng. Her real trump card was not the vast aura of the power of hope that swept towards Ning Cheng's mind. Instead, it gradually wrapped around Ning Cheng's butterfly hope world. As long as Ning Cheng entered her butterfly hope world, she would be able to kill Ning Cheng. The means to kill Ning Cheng was that seemingly very obvious seal. The seal gathered all the power of hope and Dao charm power and blasted towards Ning Cheng. On the surface, it didn't seem to pose any threat to Ning Cheng. But in fact, once the butterfly hope world wrapped around Ning Cheng, she would let Ning Cheng know how powerful the seal was. The power of hope wasn't something that ordinary Dao charm laws could resist. As long as the butterfly hope world assisted her, the most obvious means would also be the most deadly. An ant who hadn't stepped into the third step, even if he had a powerful Dao cultivation and Dao charm laws, wouldn't understand how terrifying a third step realm was. The surging power of hope and Dao charm rumbled, and Sanskrit chants surrounded it. Just when Lan Bing felt that victory was in her grasp, she suddenly saw the void in front of her break apart layer by layer. Her terrifying power of hope's Sanskrit chants even caused the butterfly hope world, which was about to close, to show traces of the void breaking apart. Is this void displacement collapse? Lan Bing felt a chill run down her spine. What kind of method would it take to cast such a thing? She clearly saw Ning Cheng draw a few spear patterns. Void displacement and void collapse had always been a natural phenomenon in the vast universe. Even if it was her, no matter how powerful she was, she could at most tear open a void realm and escape. However, Ning Cheng's casual spear strike had unexpectedly caused the void to collapse, and it even formed a layer of dislocation. She actually wanted to use the butterfly hope world to trap such a method? For someone to use such a spirit technique, her butterfly hope world would have long since been discovered by others. No matter how strong the power of hope was, it couldn't stop the layers of dislocation from collapsing. Hurry up and leave. This person's method was simply too powerful. The main reason why she retreated before was not because she feared Ning Cheng, but because of the butterfly hope world. Now that she wanted to leave, it was because she truly feared Ning Cheng. Lan Bing's intention to retreat rose in an instant. The next moment, the power of hope bombarded the void and collapsed. The power of hope's Sanskrit chants were also swept away by the collapsing and dislocated void. Boom! The power of hope finally slammed into Ning Cheng's divine spear, and the violent Dao charm laws shattered, causing the void to collapse even more thoroughly. Puff! Lan Bing opened her mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. Then, her figure disappeared along with the dissipating aura of the power of will. She didn't know that Ning Cheng had comprehended the spirit technique for 10,000 years, and it was also one of Ning Cheng's strongest means so far. If she knew about it, maybe she wouldn't have been in such a hurry to escape. Ning Cheng wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth with a heavy heart. The power of hope was too powerful, even if he had studied the power of hope deeply enough. He still couldn't completely remove the power of hope's power. If Lan Bing didn't escape, he would at most have a slight upper hand, but he would never be able to crush Lan Bing. But even if he knew that he couldn't crush Lan Bing, Ning Cheng still had to chase after her. He couldn't let Lan Bing escape his sight. What's more, fighting with Lan Bing would allow him to improve his experience in resisting the power of hope. Once he could completely block the power of hope, Lan Bing wouldn't be far from death. Soon, Ning Cheng felt something wrong. Lan Bing had grown a pair of golden wings behind her, just like the butterfly wings on the butterfly hope. This pair of wings was too heaven-defying. It could even tear through the interface and disappear in an instant. Ning Cheng suspected that if he didn't have the starry sky wheel, Lan Bing would have already escaped. As the two chased after each other, no one knew how many interfaces they crossed and how many positional planes they passed. Even if Lan Bing pushed her speed to the limit, she still couldn't get rid of Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng also couldn't shorten the distance between him and Lan Bing, which made him very depressed. Lan Bing also felt depressed. She wanted to calm down and find out where the hidden dangers of using the ancient desolate butterfly hope to create boundary were. But Ning Cheng was like a dogskin plaster, chasing after her. At first, she thought that Ning Cheng had limited patience and would give up after chasing her for a while. She did not expect that Ning Cheng, who had been chasing her for several years, would still persevere in his pursuit. It was as if Lan Bing had a blood feud with him. If she destroyed the Grand Essence Realm, it would still be acceptable. But now, she hadn't even touched a hair of the Grand Essence Realm. Thinking of this, Lan Bing's heart suddenly lit up. She finally understood why Ning Cheng chased after her. Although she hadn't done anything to the Grand Essence Realm now, what about in the future? What's more, she did want to destroy the Grand Essence Realm. Ning Cheng chased after her to kill her before she destroyed the Grand Essence Realm. After Lan Bing understood why Ning Cheng chased after her, she became even more determined to destroy the Grand Essence Realm in the future. If she couldn't destroy the Grand Essence Realm, she wouldn't be able to live up to Ning Cheng's hatred for chasing after her. She didn't care where she fled, and she didn't give up on the person in front of her. It wasn't until the billowing chaotic spatial fluctuations swept over and all kinds of chaotic Dao charm laws slammed into Lan Bing's body that Lan Bing subconsciously slowed down. If Ning Cheng hadn't chased after her, she would have already stopped to observe. The chaotic spatial laws she escaped into gave her a sense of extreme danger. Ning Cheng, who had chased after her, also felt the chaotic Dao charm law fluctuations. Was this the Chaos Realm? After feeling the danger, Ning Cheng also slowed down. Although this place was dangerous, he even felt a little surprised. If this was the Chaos Realm, then it meant that he had found the place to create a boundary. The vortex in front of them swept over one after another. Soon, Ning Cheng and Lan Bing felt that something was wrong. The two of them had unwittingly been sucked into the chaotic and broken laws. At this moment, neither of them had a sense of direction, and their spiritual consciousnesses could only wander around the chaotic laws. Dao Lord Ning, this place is very dangerous. If you're not careful, your spirit soul will perish. Let's stop for now and wait until we get out. Lan Bing felt the danger and immediately tried to make peace with Ning Cheng. In such a dangerous place, if Ning Cheng didn't care about his life anymore, it wouldn't be a good sign for her. Ning Cheng didn't answer Lan Bing's words, but his expression was equally solemn. Just now, he raised his hand and tore it. Although the spatial world he got sucked into was broken and chaotic, it was still very solid. With his strength, he couldn't tear open the space here. Lan Bing was right about one thing. Fighting here wouldn't do anyone any good. This place definitely wasn't the dark void on the periphery of the Chaos Realm he was looking for, but a place he had never seen or heard of before. Ning Cheng deliberately took out the Primordial Essence Jade Talisman to test it out. Sure enough, it didn't fluctuate at all. Seeing that Ning Cheng didn't speak, nor did he have any intention of fighting, Lan Bing felt slightly relieved. Carefully, she started to move forward. Ning Cheng didn't follow her. Although Lan Bing was someone he had to kill, he knew that Lan Bing couldn't get out of this place. Although Lan Bing had successfully merged with the ancient Desolate Wish butterfly, her spiritual consciousness wasn't necessarily as strong as his. Moreover, as soon as Ning Cheng entered this place, he felt that this place was very dangerous and posed a great threat to him. After observing for a while, Ning Cheng chose a direction and carefully moved a few steps forward. He immediately found that this space wasn't just broken and chaotic. Even the void had turned viscous. Every step he took felt like lifting his feet from a bowl of sugar, which was very difficult. Chapter 1389. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness seeped out, but he could only feel the fragmented and messy laws of heaven and earth. He couldn't feel the sticky space at all. Ning Cheng raised his hand, and the Good Fortune Divine Spear appeared in his hand. He vaguely felt that the Good Fortune Divine Spear was a little excited, but he couldn't figure out why. Just when Ning Cheng was about to bring out the Spirit Technique Traceless Collapse, Lan Bing's sharp scream arrived. Ning Cheng stopped. He didn't care about what happened to Lan Bing. If Lan Bing fell in this place, it would be a good thing for him. It would save him the time to continue chasing after this woman. What surprised Ning Cheng was that Lan Bing actually let out a sharp scream, which was completely different from what he knew. If Lan Bing forcibly fused with the ancient Desolate Wish butterfly's world, she would eventually lose her sentience and turn into the ancient Desolate Wish butterfly's spirit. For such a cold person, even if the most terrible thing appeared in front of her, she wouldn't scream. Sure enough, as soon as Ning Qing stopped, he saw Lan Bing's panicked figure rushing over, as if she was dragging millions of caddies of sand. Behind her, Ning Qing didn't find anything. Lan Bing's hair was disheveled, and she screamed while frantically running away. Even though her speed was still ridiculously slow, her demeanor carried a kind of extreme madness. Ning Qing frowned slightly, and Dao charm surrounded his body. At the same time, he gripped the good fortune divine spear tightly and stared at Lan Bing. As long as Lan Bing showed the slightest sign of danger, he would directly pierce through her glabella. Ning Qing soon felt that something was wrong. Lan Bing didn't seem to see him and only screamed and ran away. Moreover, what puzzled Ning Qing even more was that Lan Bing's strength was declining. Not only was it declining, but it was also declining at a speed visible to Ning Qing's naked eye. The Dao charm around her was also rapidly dissipating. Could it be that Lan Bing's sentience had been corroded by the ancient desolate wish butterfly and was about to lose her consciousness? That couldn't be right. If that was the case, then Lan Bing's strength should be getting stronger, not weaker. The moment Ning Cheng's thoughts changed, Lan Bing had already arrived not far from Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng didn't hesitate. He brought out the good fortune divine spear and shot it towards Lan Bing. The will-powered seal on Lan Bing's forehead instantly blasted out and blocked the fortune divine spear. A violent Dao charm erupted, and Ning Cheng blasted the hope-powered great seal into nothingness. But because of the sudden explosion of the hope-powered great seal, Ning Cheng's long spear deviated from its original position and struck Lan Bing's left shoulder. The blood mist exploded and splashed onto Lan Bing's pale face. Lan Bing finally sobered up from her madness. She stopped and stared at Ning Cheng in a daze. However, her eyes unexpectedly lit up. His ice-cold face was no longer that of a lifeless person in a painting. Instead, there was a trace of vitality. Ning Cheng put away his long spear and did not attack again. Since Lan Bing's cultivation was declining rapidly, there was no need for him to continue. He vaguely felt that Lan Bing seemed to have encountered something that caused cracks to appear in the butterfly realm created by her fusion with the ancient desolate butterfly. If this was the case, Ning Cheng really didn't know if it was a good thing or a bad thing for Lan Bing. When Lan Bing fused with the ancient desolate wish butterfly and created the butterfly realm, her spiritual soul and life completely became a part of the butterfly realm. Once they were separated, Lan Bing would definitely die. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness swept around and felt the same fear in his heart. Lan Bing and the ancient desolate wish butterfly had fused into a realm. Even Lan Bing herself might not be able to separate from it. Ning Cheng didn't know what this place contained, but it caused cracks to appear between Lan Bing and the butterfly realm. Even if Lan Bing fell because of this, it would still be a terrifying thing. Ning Cheng, can I ask you something? Lan Bing's expression was calm, completely different from the crazed look she had when she wanted to destroy the Grand Essence realm. Ning Cheng knew that Lan Bing would fall soon, so he nodded and said, "Go ahead. Don't you think I'm beautiful? Why did you remain indifferent when I offered myself to you in the Blue True Hope tribe?" Contrary to Ning Cheng's expectations, Lan Bing asked an inexplicable question. Ning Cheng replied calmly, "In terms of appearance, you're very beautiful, more beautiful than most women I've seen. But in terms of attractiveness to men, you don't have any." Ning Cheng spoke the truth. In fact, even if Lan Bing had a lot of attractiveness, he wouldn't have done anything with Lan Bing at that time. He might be a man, but he wasn't a man who couldn't control his lower body. What he said to Lan Bing was also true. Lan Bing had a dead face, and no matter how beautiful she was, she still lacked the attractiveness that a woman should have. Lan Bing's face showed a trace of disappointment. The Dao charm around her dissipated rapidly, and the realm created by the fusion of the ancient desolate wish butterfly also started to slowly separate. Ning Cheng looked at Lan Bing's life that was about to dissipate and sighed in his heart. Everyone pursued the same thing, but the means they used were different. Lan Bing had a ruthless heart. She even destroyed the land of broken laws when she created her realm. Ning Qing guessed that even the Blue True Hope tribe had become her sacrifice. This woman was too ruthless. However, there was one thing he couldn't deny. That was, Lan Bing's goal was actually the same as his. If Lan Bing had killed him and destroyed Grand Essence, his and Lan Bing's positions would have been reversed. It wasn't that Lan Bing looked at him before she died, but rather he looked at Lan Bing before he died. Winner takes all, this was an ironclad rule. Lan Bing, you look much better than you did before. At least, I don't feel disgusted looking at you. Ning Qing looked at Lan Bing's disappointed eyes and suddenly spoke up. Lan Bing's face was splattered with blood at this time, and her appearance wasn't as good as before. But at this time, she had a trace of life aura. Sure enough, after listening to Ning Cheng's words, Lan Bing's eyes lit up a little. She then suddenly asked, if I asked to cultivate with you now, would you be willing? The brilliance in her eyes felt as if she was eagerly waiting for Ning Cheng to agree. As long as Ning Cheng agreed, she would immediately cultivate with Ning Cheng. Ah! Ning Cheng looked at Lan Bing in surprise. He couldn't keep up with Lan Bing's thoughts at all. The brilliance in Lan Bing's eyes suddenly dimmed, and a weak voice came from her mouth, pity me, how torturous. After just a few breaths, her aura dissipated without a trace, and her entire body started to turn illusory. A golden butterfly condensed above Lan Bing's dissipating body. It was the ancient desolate wish butterfly, and it seemed to have transformed. Ning Qing didn't hesitate and raised his hand to grab the golden butterfly. It's just that he forgot where he was, and the viscous space around him hindered his movements. The golden butterfly turned into a golden light and directly entered the space, and could no longer be detected. Ning Chang's expression turned a little ugly. With Lan Bing's death, the strength of the ancient desolate wish butterfly would definitely be greatly reduced. Even so, the ancient desolate wish butterfly escaping wouldn't be a good thing for him. This ancient desolate wish butterfly was a bit strange, which cast a shadow over Ning Cheng's heart. Unfortunately, he couldn't do anything about it now. Not to mention taking away the ancient desolate wish butterfly, even leaving this place would be difficult. Moreover, Lan Bing's dying words made Ning Cheng feel a little sad. Although he had chased after Lan Bing all the way here, Lan Bing's words before her death, pity me, how torturous, resonated with him. The first time he heard Zixiao's words, he didn't have many feelings. But now that Lan Bing said these words before her death, it made him feel a little deeper. Ning Qing quickly put these feelings aside and began to release his spiritual consciousness. His spiritual consciousness had a strong adaptability. No matter where one was, one could quickly temper one's spiritual consciousness. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness was already strong to begin with. Coupled with his own spiritual consciousness cultivation method, in just a few days, his spiritual consciousness combined with his Dao charm domain to form a law space around him. This law space belonged to him. Even if his spiritual consciousness couldn't penetrate further, he had no restrictions in this law space. At least under the law space he condensed, it wouldn't be the same as before, where every step felt like wading through mud. Holding the good fortune divine spear tightly, Ning Qing continued to spread out his spiritual consciousness, making the law space he condensed grow bigger. At the same time, he moved in the direction of Lan Bing's scream. He wanted to see what could make Lan Bing, who used the ancient desolate wish butterfly to create a boundary, scream. Moreover, it forcibly stripped away the boundary she created. Ning Qing didn't walk for long when an overwhelming darkness surged over. The endless darkness felt like he had fallen into the 18th floor of hell, without even the slightest bit of light. Ning Qing brought out the good fortune divine spear without hesitation and shot out a spear pattern. Ever since he started cultivating his spiritual consciousness, he didn't know what darkness was. For a cultivator, as long as they could use their spiritual consciousness, even if it was pitch black, it wasn't darkness. They could still see things within their spiritual consciousness. But at this time, whether it was his naked eye or his spiritual consciousness, everything was pitch black. Not to mention that he couldn't see anything, an oppressive dark aura seeped into his soul and seemed to want to dye his soul black. Boom boom boom. Although it was a void of nothingness, Ning Cheng's spear pattern still blasted onto the Dao charm invisible to the naked eye, creating ripples of Dao charm. Just a few Dao charm impacts made Ning Cheng's chest feel heavy, forcing him to take a few steps back. At the same time, the darkness in his heart grew even heavier. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness repeatedly attacked the darkness in front of him. He vaguely understood why Lan Bing would scream in fright and then rush back. Moreover, her cultivation kept weakening. This was the first time he had seen a law charm, the law of darkness. Since he started cultivating, Ning Cheng had seen all kinds of laws and had evolved various laws, but he had never seen the law of darkness. Today, he finally saw it. If there was any law spirit technique that Ning Cheng hadn't come into contact with, it would undoubtedly be the law of darkness. He had 8 spiritual roots, but he didn't have a dark attributed spiritual root. Therefore, when it came to the law of darkness spirit techniques or the Dao charm aura, it was like a blind man touching an elephant. The butterfly wish realm created by the fusion of Lan Bing and the ancient desolate wish butterfly was completely made up of the power of hope and Dao charm. From a certain perspective, the power of hope was equivalent to a branch of the law of light. And the law of darkness was its nemesis. However, Pill Master Lan Bing had just created the realm, and the butterfly wish realm was already unstable. Moreover, because of his words, the Dao marks appeared in her heart. Under the invasion of this powerful law of darkness, the hesitation in her heart immediately collapsed like dominoes. Chapter 1390. Darkness was too common, but it was Ning Cheng's first time encountering the laws of darkness. The darkness he usually saw was just an extension of the 5 elements of heaven and earth or some other laws with different attributes. This kind of darkness could be sensed with spiritual consciousness, but it was completely different from the real laws of darkness. Even if Ning Cheng had the mysterious yellow bead and gathered all kinds of origins of heaven and earth, it would only give birth to 8 spiritual roots. But among the 8 spiritual roots he derived, he lacked the dark attribute. When Ning Cheng and Kong Zai chatted, he heard Kong Zai talk about the darkness origin and the light origin. After the primal chaos of their universe, the world was condensed from the 5 elements and other laws. At the same time, darkness and light were also derived from these 8 attributes. There was also a saying that not only light and darkness, but even the 3 other laws of wind, thunder, and ice were derived from the 5 elements. But it was said that there was another universe. When the primal chaos of that universe first formed, there were only 2 kinds of heaven and earth laws, light and darkness. All the other attribute laws, such as metal, wood, water, fire, earth, wind, thunder, ice, and so on, were derived from the laws of light and darkness. Regardless of whether this statement was true or not, Ning Cheng had never seen a darkness-attributed cultivator or a darkness-attributed law-based spirit technique since the start of his cultivation. Maybe there were, but because the dark attribute was derived from the 5 elements, it was very weak. Therefore, few people cultivated darkness-attributed cultivation methods or spirit techniques. As for light-attributed spirit techniques, Ning Cheng had always thought that light, thunder, and lightning-attributed spirit techniques were the ones. Now that he saw Lan Bing directly defeated by the laws of darkness here and separated from the human world, he became even more certain that the power of hope was a branch of the light-attributed law. Ning Cheng wasn't worried that he would end up like Lan Bing. Although it would be difficult for him to leave this place, he was different from Lan Bing in that his Tao was stable and didn't rush to create a world. Moreover, the spirit techniques he cultivated were the 5 elemental spirit techniques and wind, thunder, and ice. Even if his lightning-attributed spirit technique had some friction with the laws of light, it wouldn't have too much of an impact. Although darkness-attributed spirit techniques were the nemesis of light-attributed spirit techniques, light-attributed spirit techniques were also the nemesis of darkness-attributed spirit techniques. It was just a matter of which was stronger and which was weaker. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness slowly seeped out, and the surrounding space turned dark. That stickiness made Ning Cheng vaguely feel that it was a darkness-attributed law that he had never come into contact with before. Moreover, the mysterious yellow bead could not give birth to darkness-attributed techniques, which made Ning Cheng even more careful. At the same time, he also had a trace of hope in his heart that he could understand the laws of darkness in this place and comprehend a darkness-attributed spirit technique. Although Ning Qing knew that it would be very difficult, but he was not willing to give up. As long as he comprehended the law of darkness, it would be easy for him to leave this place. Ning Qing calmed himself down, and his spiritual consciousness penetrated into the broken law fragments in front of him. Many of these law fragments were darkness-attributed law fragments. Ning Qing felt confident in his own deduction ability. As long as he could obtain the information about the darkness-attributed laws, he might be able to deduce a darkness law-based spirit technique. Just when Ning Qing found the first dark-attributed fragment, a black tide that tore apart his sea of consciousness surged over. Ning Cheng's starry sky sea of consciousness also shook violently, and an endless darkness washed over him, causing Ning Cheng to almost scream out in fear. Ning Cheng immediately understood that this was an attack from the laws of darkness. As long as his willpower was slightly weaker, he would fall into an eternal world of darkness under the attack of this dark law. Ning Cheng felt both shocked and angry. This darkness-attributed law attack on his sea of consciousness was definitely conscious, not caused by the space here. Since it was conscious, it meant that someone was controlling this attack from here. The everlasting blue thunder fort in Ning Cheng's sea of consciousness immediately protected the depths of his sea of consciousness. The celestial river sword and the nameless flame also formed the flame shield in front of Ning Cheng. Although the everlasting blue thunder fort's artifact spirit had not yet awakened, the thunder light from the everlasting blue thunder fort had blasted the black tide attacking Ning Cheng's sea of consciousness out of his sea of consciousness. Perhaps because Ning Cheng's two sacred flames were too terrifying, the black tide did not continue to attack. Ning Cheng finally understood what Lan Bing had encountered. It turned out to be a powerful darkness-attributed attack. "Get out of my dark world, or die." A gloomy voice came from the void. Ning Cheng raised his hand, and the good fortune divine spear shot out. At the same time, several thick lightning arcs shot out. This turned out to be someone else's dark world. Ning Cheng couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. He really couldn't understand how Lan Bing ended up in someone else's domain. Fortunately, this person should have been repairing his dark world. Otherwise, he wouldn't have told him to get out but would have killed him directly. Ning Cheng had already reached this person's domain, yet this person still couldn't kill him. From this, one could tell that this person's injuries were quite severe. "Who are you?" Ning Cheng looked at his few lightning arcs and sacred flames. In this dark world with broken laws, they only flashed a bright light. Not even the slightest bit of light could be seen in the surroundings. From this, he understood that this dark world was quite powerful. The gloomy voice continued, "It's not that this sovereign suffered heavy injuries, but if a little insect dared to break into this sovereign's domain, this sovereign would have already pinched it to death." Ning Cheng laughed and no longer bothered to ask questions. Blasting out with a finger, law breaking. The originally broken laws, under Ning Cheng's finger, collapsed once again. The dark void, which originally had its laws in a mess, now looked even more broken at this moment. Bursts of space shook, making this domain seem as if it would collapse at any time. However, Ning Cheng knew that this was just an illusion. Don't look at this person's dark world with broken laws everywhere. His law-breaking finger was still far from being able to break through the dark world here. Ning Cheng's finger was a warning to the dark world's master that he wasn't someone who could be threatened easily. This was also why Ning Cheng felt no fear. The other party didn't look like a good person at first glance. Since this person wasn't a good person and hadn't attacked him yet, it meant that he couldn't kill him. Or rather, the other party had already started, but couldn't do anything to him. As the laws in the broken space turned even more chaotic, Ning Cheng shook the good fortune divine spear in his hand and spoke with a calm tone, "My most powerful move isn't that finger. If you anger me, I'll just break your dark world. At most, I'll just have to put my life on the line. But compared to an ancient powerhouse's domain, my life is worth it. What do you want?" The gloomy voice turned even gloomier. Sure enough, as Ning Cheng had expected, the other party didn't attack. From this, it could be seen that the other party also knew about the power of Ning Cheng's law-breaking finger. First, tell me who you are. Second, open your dark world and let me leave. Ning Cheng asked in a calm tone. He didn't care about his life as much as he said. If the other party really wanted to cut off all means of retreat, he would do everything he could to escape from this dark world. The gloomy voice in the darkness sneered, "You think too highly of yourself. At worst, I'll just spend tens of thousands of years to repair my dark world. An ant like you wants to talk about conditions with me?" Ning Cheng spoke up with a calm voice, "Tens of thousands of years to repair your domain? Do you think I don't know anything? Thousands or tens of thousands of years? Since I'm an ant, then let's see the spirit techniques of this ant." While talking, the good fortune divine spear in Ning Cheng's hand moved slightly, and a terrifying aura slowly spread out. It felt as if the next moment, the entire void would collapse under this slash. "Stop!" The voice in the darkness apparently felt the terror of Ning Cheng's spear and quickly called out to Ning Cheng to stop. At the same time, a more majestic and vast aura of the laws of darkness pressed down on Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng felt the Tao charm laws around him shatter inch by inch. But under the crazy circulation of his Tao charm, the shattered domain laws condensed once again. He knew very well that he couldn't show weakness at this time. Just like how Ning Cheng feared the powerhouse in the darkness, he didn't bring out the traceless collapse. The powerhouse in the darkness also feared Ning Cheng, but the terrifying suppression on Ning Cheng stopped here. He feared that Ning Cheng would really destroy the dark world that he had slowly begun to repair, just like what he had said before. "This Lord, Tao Monarch Darkness, scram." Just as he finished speaking, a crack appeared in the void, and Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness instantly felt a sense of freedom from this crack. Ning Cheng didn't rush to leave but asked, "If I didn't guess wrong, the damage to your domain should have something to do with the first opening of the Gate of Good Fortune, right?" "Gotcha." Just as Ning Cheng's voice fell, the realm boundary that had opened a small crack closed again. Then, Tao Monarch Darkness' gloomy voice rang out, "Do you know the first time the Gate of Good Fortune opened? So, you also know about the first Great War of Good Fortune?" Ning Cheng heard the coldness in the other party's tone and understood that it was because of his words that Tao Monarch Darkness wanted to kill him. Ning Cheng indeed felt a little worried, but wealth came from danger. The second opening of the Gate of Good Fortune was imminent. If he could comprehend a spirit technique related to the laws of darkness, it would give him a chance at survival. After cultivating to this point, Ning Cheng didn't think that just because he had the mysterious yellow bead, he was the best under the heavens. In this vast void, he had seen too many powerhouses. Feeling the pressure of the domain slowly closing in, Ning Cheng understood that the other party wanted to kill him even if the dark world shattered again. Most likely, the other party had deliberately allowed Lan Bing to come in before. It was only later that Tao Monarch Darkness felt that Ning Cheng wasn't easy to kill, or that the price of killing him was too high that he let him go. However, Ning Cheng courted death and spoke about the first Great War of Good Fortune. "Tao Monarch Darkness, I advise you not to move. Otherwise, don't blame me for tearing and destroying your dark world. Don't say that it will take you tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of years to repair it, because the Gate of Good Fortune is about to open again. If your domain is still broken, you won't have the chance to participate." Sure enough, as soon as Ning Cheng said this, the pressure of the surrounding dark void suddenly weakened. Ning Cheng breathed a sigh of relief and took control of the Good Fortune divine spear. If the other party had really wanted to kill him just now, he would have shattered the other party's dark world. Ning Cheng believed that he could do it. It was just a dark world with broken laws, why couldn't he break it? Chapter 1391. Did you know that the second Gate of Good Fortune was about to open? Tao Monarch Darkness retracted his realm domain and asked in a gloomy voice. Although he hadn't really fought with Ning Cheng yet, Tao Lord Darkness could feel that Ning Cheng was very strong. However, with Ning Cheng's strength, he still did not put him in his eyes. Once his world fully repaired, an ant like Ning Cheng would only end up as cannon fodder if he entered the Gate of Good Fortune. He didn't continue to attack Ning Cheng because he was worried that the second Gate of Good Fortune would open soon. Once the Gate of Destinies opened for the second time and he was still repairing the broken world, he, Tao Monarch Darkness, would be erased from the universe. Ning Qing spoke up calmly, I'm afraid that Tao Lord has been repairing the broken world here, so he doesn't know what's happening outside. 10,000 years ago, the Good Fortune Indestructible Axe was restored. After the indestructible axe of good fortune condensed, the green lotus of good fortune began to condense and repair itself. What? The good fortune indestructible axe has already condensed? Tao Monarch Darkness spoke up in surprise. Ning Qing could even vaguely feel Tao Monarch Darkness's position. Sure enough, Tao Lord Darkness didn't know about the condensation of the good fortune indestructible axe. Of course, otherwise, how would I know that the Gate of Fortune is about to open for the second time? I'm not the only one who knows about this. Everyone outside knows about this. Tao Lord, do you really think you'll have a chance to step into the Gate of Fortune if we both end up heavily injured? Hearing Ning Cheng's words, Tao Lord Darkness sneered in his heart. A puny Tao Integration Divine Emperor dared to say that both sides would suffer. However, he did not continue to provoke Ning Cheng. After all, Ning Cheng was right about one thing. Even if Ning Cheng couldn't kill him, Ning Cheng could at least shatter his boundary a bit more. If the good fortune indestructible axe really condensed and the good fortune green lotus began to repair itself, then this ant in front of him was probably telling the truth and the gate of good fortune would open again. Since you've told me this information, I won't kill you. You can leave. Tao Lord Darkness's voice was still as gloomy as ever. Ning Qing laughed again, Tao Monarch Darkness, if I wanted to leave, I would have left from the very beginning. I'm staying here to tell you this because I want to make a deal with you. Tao Monarch Darkness snorted. What right do you have to make a deal with me? Ning Qing said calmly, Tao Monarch, I'm afraid that the most urgent thing right now is to repair your realm. I have a way to bring Tao Monarch's Tao of Laws to the next level, and then at least double the speed of repairing your realm. Tao Monarch Darkness said disdainfully, You? It wasn't that he was disdainful, but Ning Cheng, a puny Tao Integration Holy Emperor, wanted to improve his Tao of Laws to the next level. Ning Cheng still didn't care and said, I have a bestowing lawless fruit. Bestowing lawless fruit? Do you have such a thing? Sure enough, after hearing Ning Cheng mention the bestowing lawless fruit, Tao Lord Darkness felt a little moved. However, he immediately said, the bestowing lawless fruit is indeed a good thing. It might allow me to gain a more thorough understanding of the laws, but it still can't double the speed at which I can repair my domain. No wonder that finger of yours had the effect of breaking laws. It turns out that you have the bestowing lawless fruit. Since Ning Cheng possessed the bestowing lawless fruit, he naturally had a better understanding of laws compared to the average person. Being able to execute a spirit ability like the order-breaking finger was nothing surprising. Ning Cheng knew that the bestowing lawless fruit couldn't tempt the other party and continued, in addition to the bestowing lawless fruit, I also have a bit of stabilizing soil. You have stabilizing soil. Tao Lord Darkness's voice grew a little louder. Although he still remained calm, Ning Cheng could tell that he was tempted. I'm afraid that you won't be tempted, Ning Cheng thought to himself. To repair the Grand Essence Realm, he had been searching for the 5 soils. At the same time, he had also been trying to understand the characteristics of the 5 soils. Since Tao Lord Darkness Domain's laws were broken, the best way was to use the 5 soils to repair it. Besides Heng Ran, Ning Cheng had the rest of the 5 soils on him. But Ning Cheng didn't want to take out the other chaos soils so easily. The reason why he took out the stabilizing soil was that it had an extremely important stabilizing effect on broken realms. Even if he wanted to take out the stabilizing soil, Ning Cheng could only take out a little bit the size of a longan fruit. As such, he couldn't take out too much. He also needed stabilizing soil to repair the Grand Essence Realm. That's right. I have a bit of stabilizing soil. Although it's only the size of a longan fruit, I believe that it would be of unparalleled help to Tao Lord. Ning Cheng said with certainty. Tao Lord Darkness was currently repairing his domain in this place. He definitely didn't have the time or energy to search for the Chaos 5 soils by himself. Even if he went looking for it, he might not be able to find it. This thing wasn't something that could be obtained with high cultivation. It also required a lot of opportunities. What do you want? Tao Lord Darkness's tone returned to its previous gloomy state without any fluctuations. I want a way to understand the darkness-attributed laws. Ning Qing said immediately. He had risked his life to stay here for the sake of understanding the laws of darkness. Tao Lord Darkness remained silent for a long time before speaking up slowly. Your conditions are too weak to exchange for the laws of darkness. Ning Qing knew that this was the case. In fact, even if he used all 4 kinds of chaos soils on him, he might not be able to exchange them for the laws of darkness. But the current environment was different. Doing business was about asking for a sky-high price and returning the money on the spot. Tao Lord Darkness urgently wanted to repair his domain. Stabilizing soil was very important to him, and the bestowing lawless fruit was equivalent to charcoal in the snow. At most, he could take out a little more releasing soil. Since it's not enough, then forget it. Tao Lord, please open the domain and let me leave. Ning Qing said without hesitation. Tao Lord Darkness still hadn't opened the domain. Ning Qing understood that the other party was considering whether it would be worthwhile to kill him. Ning Qing naturally wouldn't let the other party continue to consider it, and the good fortune divine spear once again shot out. A violent aura of Tao charm erupted, and at the same time, his spiritual consciousness domain also spread out into a huge free space. Within his domain, Ning Qing took a relaxed step forward. With this step, his traceless collapsing space spear pattern slapped towards the shore like a wave of steel. This was the heaven waves rolling that Ning Qing had comprehended from the Milky Way. Although it hadn't taken shape yet, it could be combined with the traceless collapsing space technique to display a powerful continuous power. Feeling his domain trembling again, Tao Lord Darkness suddenly shouted, "Stop, or this lord will not be polite." Ning Qing knew that if he continued to toss and turn, Tao Lord Darkness would definitely cut off all means of retreat. "I'm willing to trade with you, but I have one condition. My laws of darkness are one of the most powerful laws in the entire universe. It's a true darkness-attributed law, which is completely different from those so-called darkness-attributed laws. I can only give you the most basic darkness-attributed law information. Whether you can comprehend it or not is up to you. Moreover, after you comprehend it, you must never pass it on to anyone else." Tao Lord Darkness finally made up his mind. He didn't dare to make this bet. Otherwise, even if he killed Ning Qing, it would take him countless years to repair his domain. Perhaps he would really miss the second opening of the Gate of Good Fortune. "Deal," Ning Qing said without hesitation. He felt sure that Tao Lord Darkness had never done business before and didn't understand the logic of asking for a higher price. He wasn't Tao Lord Darkness's disciple, so he naturally didn't expect Tao Lord Darkness to teach him the laws of darkness. He had the mysterious yellow formless, which allowed him to gain an entry-level understanding of the laws of darkness. That way, he would be able to deduce a true darkness-attributed spirit technique. Suddenly, a pitch-black ball of Tao charm appeared in the dark void. Ning Qing also threw out 2 jade boxes without hesitation. One of them contained the bestowing lawless fruit, while the other contained the stabilizing soil. A wave of Tao charm swept away Ning Qing's 2 jade boxes, and Ning Qing also raised his hand and grabbed the pitch-black ball of Tao charm. The moment he grabbed the ball of Tao charm, Ning Qing understood that this ball contained the Tao charm of the laws of darkness. The next moment, a gap appeared in Ning Qing's spiritual consciousness again. This time, Ning Qing didn't hesitate. He turned into a ray of light and escaped through the gap. When Ning Qing once again landed in the endless void, his spiritual consciousness swept out but found nothing in this place. The place he had just appeared felt like a dream, without even the slightest trace. So strong, Ning Qing thought to himself. He knew that Tao Lord Darkness wasn't afraid of him finding him. Even if he did, he wouldn't be able to find Tao Lord Darkness. Unless an expert on the same level as Tao Lord Darkness or even stronger than Tao Lord Darkness came. Even so, he might not be able to find Tao Lord Darkness. Tao Lord Darkness controlled the laws of darkness, which made him an expert in concealment. Ning Cheng took out the gray positional ball, world mountains and rivers, and quickly found his current location. His current location was too far away from Jiao Yang realm. At his current speed, it would take him several years to get there. Ning Cheng simply called out Chasing Bull and handed the positional ball to Chasing Bull. Then, he pointed to Jiao Yang realm on the positional ball and said, "You go to this place now, as soon as possible. Remember, don't disturb me if there's nothing important. I'm going into secluded cultivation." "Yes, Master." Chasing Bull happily grabbed the positional ball. After so many years, Master finally remembered to let it out for a ride. Ning Cheng felt speechless. After so many years, Chasing Bull had barely reached the Tao sculpting realm. But wasn't it because of Chasing Bull's aptitude and how hard it cultivated? It was all because of the mysterious yellow bead's origin and the abundance of cultivation resources. More importantly, Chasing Bull's body was a wind-seeking heavenly bull. If replaced with a powerful spirit soul, with an innate cultivation body like the wind-seeking heavenly bull, its strength would have already reached the second step. After saying this, Chasing Bull didn't forget to add, "I will never disturb Master's cultivation." Ning Cheng sighed. Fortunately, Chasing Bull reacted in time. It stared at the positional ball and said with some embarrassment, "Master, this positional ball seems to be separated from us by countless planes." You can't tear through the plane, can you?" Ning Cheng felt that this stupid bull's reaction speed was really slow. He helplessly grabbed a handful of talismans and handed them to Chasing Bull. "These are some breaking boundary talismans. Use these talismans, coupled with the speed of the starry sky wheel, and you should have no problems." Apart from Ning Cheng's spoils of war, some of these breaking boundary talismans came from the burning question talismans. Ning Cheng wanted to use this time to comprehend the laws of darkness and improve his strength further. Chapter 1392. Amidst a misty domain in the endless void, a woman in cyan robes paced back and forth beside the lotus pond for a long time. This lotus pond was different from ordinary lotus ponds. This lotus pond was suspended in the void and had a golden hue. The cyan-robed woman didn't know how long or deep this lotus pond was. She only knew that she had been wandering around this lotus pond for thousands of years. Ever since her master had brought her here, she had disappeared without a trace. Her master had said that once she had her own domain, he would come back to help her sculpt her Tao. But now, not only did she have her own domain, but her cultivation had also reached the full circle of the eternal realm. She was just one step away from Tao sculpting. However, her master had warned her not to sculpt her Tao in her master's absence. The cyan-robed woman sighed. She didn't know how heaven-defying her qualifications were. In just a few thousand years, she had cultivated from an ordinary woman with no foundation to the full circle of the eternal realm. She could feel the aura of the great Tao. She even felt that as long as she took one more step, she could transcend the ordinariness in front of her and truly step into a new realm. However, her master's words lingered in her ears. If she reached Tao sculpting before her master returned, her cultivation would end here. In fact, she didn't care about her cultivation stopping here. What she cared about was the memories of her previous life. Her master had also said that only by following a certain path to Tao sculpting could she obtain all the memories of her previous life. She could stop cultivating, but she couldn't abandon her memories. As the cyan-robed woman thought of this, she felt a little stunned. She looked at the golden lotus pond in front of her and thought of that man. That man carried her on his back as he ran through the curtain of light. That man carried her to the dawn. It was also that man who took her into the ice forest, and then she never came out again. If these were all dreams, then that man had personally rescued her from the flames and then replaced her to be swallowed by the flames. She had experienced all of these personally. He said that his name was Ning Cheng, and that he came here specifically to find her. He also said that she had left behind 10 ice walls on the ice cliff before she died, and those 10 ice walls recorded her words before she died. She didn't have time to talk to him carefully before the disaster came. He was swallowed by the flames, and she was taken away by her master. She vowed that she would cultivate to recover her memories, and then go to the soul world to find that man's soul and save him. Someone had risked his life to save her, so how could she, Yuqing, not recall the memories that had been left behind at the cost of his life? Yuqing withdrew her gaze from the golden lotus pond and looked at the crescent-shaped purple jade talisman in her hand. The words on the jade talisman were protected by a restriction. Even though she had been caressing it for 10,000 years, the words were still clear. I want to stay here with Wanderer forever, and I really don't want anyone to disturb me. Unfortunately, I was still disturbed. My body can no longer be touched by others. Once touched, I will turn into nothingness. I don't blame you. You did it unintentionally. If you want, please help me deliver this half-moon-shaped jade talisman to Culmination Starlands Yuclan's Corner City, my mother, Shin Mengyan. My mother would definitely be grateful. If you have any requests, just mention it to Yuclan's Corner City, they would definitely meet them. Yuqing. She didn't know who Shin Mengyan was, but she wanted to see the 10 ice walls again. She wanted to find the wanderer who carried her and ran in the twilight. She wanted to see if it was Ning Cheng, who had replaced her in the flames. No matter what, she still owed Wanderer and Ning Cheng a favor. No, she owed Ning Cheng a favor, and she owed Wanderer a favor. I really don't want to wait any longer. Yuqing held the jade talisman in her hand and shifted her gaze to a small stone bridge at the edge of the lotus pond. Her master had told her that if her cultivation progressed too slowly, she would have a chance to cross the stone bridge. But before that, she must not go. Since her cultivation reached the full circle of the eternal realm, Yuqing had always followed her master's words. She didn't try to sculpt her Tao or cross the stone bridge. But after waiting for thousands of years, she had already walked this path at the edge of the lotus pond countless times. She suddenly felt a little tormented in her heart. She could continue to wait, but would Ning Cheng's soul dissipate completely? Yuqing pursed her lips. For the first time in thousands of years, she came to the edge of the stone bridge and carefully stepped over it. It looked like a very short stone bridge, but after Yuqing stepped over it, it felt as if she couldn't reach the end. She walked for a few days before she saw the scene on the other side of the stone bridge. It turned out to be a garden with all kinds of bright flowers and plants. Some of these flowers were immortal spiritual plants, while some were just ordinary plants. But whether they were immortal spiritual plants or ordinary plants, they all had one thing in common, and that was beauty. Every flower was beautiful to the extreme. Yuqing stopped in joy. She had never seen so many varieties of beautiful flowers before. Her master was a stunning beauty, and she had planted so many flowers because of her love for beauty. Thinking of this, Yuqing subconsciously stroked her smooth white cheeks. She suddenly shivered. She remembered very clearly that her master had once told her that she was very beautiful, and that she might even surpass her. When her master said those words, she felt a chill in her heart. Because her master never joked with her and always spoke without any expression on his face. There were so many flowers in this garden that Yuqing couldn't help but admire them all the way until there was no road ahead. At the end of the road, Yuqing saw a gray wooden door with a gloomy aura. Yuqing frowned slightly. A gray wooden door in this place looked too incongruous. Looking at the gray wooden door, Yuqing looked at the flowers again, and suddenly felt a sense of sadness. The flowers no longer looked like the beautiful flowers from before. Instead, they looked sad. Yuqing shook her head. Maybe her master had some use for her. She didn't move forward but turned around and prepared to go back. But just as she turned around, a dull thud came from the wooden door. Yuqing suddenly turned to look at the gray wooden door again. She wanted to sweep in with her spiritual consciousness, but her spiritual consciousness couldn't penetrate it in the slightest. This? Even if Yuqing cultivated to the eternal realm, she only had memories of the outside world when she was in Jiangsha City. For more than 10,000 years, she had never left this white mist world. In her memories, apart from the cave where she cultivated, there was only the golden lotus pond and the road beside the lotus pond. It was even her first time coming to this place. Ah! A painful moan once again emerged. This kind of painful moan made Yu Qing think of Ning Cheng, who was wrapped in flames. When Ning Cheng was wrapped in flames and struggled in the flames, did it also feel this kind of pain? Yu Qing didn't think about it anymore and pushed open the wooden door without hesitation. There were no restrictions behind the wooden door, only a slanted gray staircase. Yu Qing walked down the gray staircase. Not knowing how long she walked, Yu Qing stopped. In front of her was not a cell, nor a public square, but two huge pillars. These two pillars gave off a sky-piercing Dao charm aura, which seemed to extend to an endless place. A tumbling void aura roared between the two pillars. A few dozen feet away from the two pillars, there was a void restriction. Although Yu Qing's spiritual consciousness couldn't stretch into the restriction, she could feel that the painful moans came from this restriction. Yu Qing felt a chill in her heart. She didn't think that there would be such a prison in this cultivation place for immortals. She carefully moved over. The powerful Dao charm aura around her made her sway with every step she took. It felt like if she wasn't careful, the Dao charm aura would sweep her into the middle of the endless pillars. Is there anyone inside? Yu Qing finally arrived outside the restriction. She saw a temple-like building, but her spiritual consciousness still couldn't penetrate it. Who are you? A slightly hoarse voice came from the temple, sounding very vicissitudes of life. When Yu Qing heard someone speak, she finally felt a bit more at ease. She carefully replied, I've been cultivating outside. Today, I accidentally walked in here and heard a voice inside, so I came to check it out. The voice in the temple turned silent for a while before speaking, Xing Shi, that bitch, hasn't come yet. It stands to reason that she would know as soon as you stepped into the garden and immediately kill you. Could it be that she's trapped somewhere? Yu Qing quickly spoke up, Xing Shi is my master's name. Please don't talk nonsense. Ha ha ha. A burst of wild laughter came, your master, ha ha ha. Xing Shi, that bitch, actually accepted a disciple out of kindness? If I didn't guess wrong, after you create the world, you will replace me, Jihei, to guard the pillars. There was a hint of sadness in his laughter. Yu Qing's heart sank, but she didn't refute it this time. Deep in her heart, she had a vague feeling that this person named Jihei was right. Because her master hadn't seen her for more than 10,000 years, and it was likely that she was trapped somewhere. Seeing that Yu Qing had fallen silent, the maniacal laughter stopped, and he asked in a hoarse voice, what kind of cultivation method did she give you to cultivate? What realm are you in now? Yu Qing didn't hide it, I cultivate my own cultivation method, and I'm now at the full circle of the eternal realm. What? She let you cultivate your own cultivation method? That's impossible. A surprised voice came from the temple. Yu Qing quickly replied, at that time, Master insisted that I cultivate her cultivation method. However, I had already promised someone else that I would cultivate the cultivation method given to me by him. Master didn't pressure me and let me cultivate my own cultivation method. But when I reached Dao sculpting, I must wait for her by my side. Yu Qing wasn't a fool. At this time, she felt that her master Xing Shi didn't accept her as a disciple for simple reasons. As for when she chose her cultivation method, her master did say that she wanted to cultivate the cultivation method she gave her. At that time, she made up her mind that even if she died, she would cultivate the cultivation method Ning Qing gave her. Since Ning Qing left something for her before he died, she had to accept it. Chapter 1393. You haven't reached the Dao sculpting realm yet, and you're cultivating your own cultivation method. The voice in the temple seemed to be talking to itself. After a while, the voice suddenly spoke up, I'm sure that bitch Xing Shi is trapped somewhere. If you want freedom, you'd better cooperate with me. Find a way to get in here, and I'll tell you what to do. Yu Qing gave a sound and carefully used her spiritual consciousness to penetrate the restrictions around the temple. What surprised her was that after her spiritual sense fell on the restriction, she unconsciously felt where the weak spot was. Yu Qing immediately brought out a flying sword and blasted it towards the weak spot. Boom, with a slight shake, Yuqing felt a violent backlash. She opened her mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood, but the restrictions didn't budge. The voice in the temple sighed, "Your magic treasure is too weak, and your strength is also too weak. But the location you chose is not wrong. You shouldn't have touched on the Tao of array formations, right? Without touching on the Tao of array formations, you already have this kind of ability. Your talent is amazing, and the cultivation method you cultivate is also amazing. I'm sorry, I only have this flying sword." Yuqing's face turned slightly red. In the ring Ning Chen gave her, apart from cultivation methods and cultivation explanations, there were only a variety of cultivation pills. Moreover, these cultivation pills could only help her cultivate up to the ordinary domain realm. She could reach the eternal realm by relying on her own aptitude and perception, as well as the heaven-defying heaven and earth essence qi in this place. One could say that from the beginning of her cultivation, she had almost never used any auxiliary medicinal pills. It might sound a bit shocking, but it was the truth. There's nothing to be shy about. When I first started, I only had a pair of fists. The voice in the temple persuaded. This made Yuqing feel a little grateful. The other party really thought about her. Although the restrictions here are just low-level restrictions, with your flying sword, even after countless years, you still wouldn't be able to break it open. I have a way. We can bombard this restriction at the same time. I'll attack from the inside, and you attack the same place from the outside. I believe we should be able to blast it open at once. The hoarse voice in the temple said. Yuqing wasn't a fool. She immediately asked in confusion, "Senior, since you can blast it open, why were you locked up here for countless years?" The voice in the temple sighed. "Don't call me senior in the future. My name is Ji Hei. Just call me by my name. I also thought the same way back then, but I ended up being teased by this bitch for countless years." The restriction she had set up wasn't very profound. My all-out attack was just enough to break the restriction, but I couldn't break it. Only then would I stupidly continue to bombard it. Senior Hei, does that mean that the restriction will immediately repair itself after being blasted open a little? Yuqing immediately understood. Ji Hei sighed. That's right. It's always that little bit missing. I understand. Senior Hei, please do it. Yuqing was very smart. She immediately understood Xing Shi's meaning. I'll count to 3. We'll attack together. Ji Hei began counting. 3, 2, 1, Yuqing was already prepared. The moment Ji Hei finished counting to 3, her flying sword had already shot out. Rumble, Kacha. The restriction hit the same spot from the inside and outside at the same time. A crack finally appeared on the restriction. Yuqing's eyes lit up, but before she could react, a shadow in the temple tore the restriction a few times, and the restoration of the restriction finally slowed down. Ah! Yuqing looked at Ji Hei in front of her and cried out in shock. Ji Hei was a woman. She had a delicate face but her clothes were tattered. Her body seemed to be pressed down by something. She was actually a dwarf. She was less than 3 feet tall. What shocked Yuqing even more was that Ji Hei seemed to only have a qi-gathering cultivation. She had no foundation at all. At this moment, a chain had pierced through her shoulder blade and she was fixed to a praying mat. If Ning Chen was here, he would definitely sigh. Compared to this, Ji Hei, Ling Bo, and Luo Xian, who were also using the heaven pillar, were like heaven. Ji Hei seemed to know Yuqing's shock. She didn't care and said, "Let's leave this place quickly. I'll tell you the rest slowly." How do we leave? Your cultivation base. Yuqing looked at Ji Hei with a worried expression. Ji Hei said calmly, "I don't cultivate the soul. I'm from the witch race. You don't have to worry about me looking like I don't have any cultivation. If I was at my peak, even Xing Shi would have to dodge with one punch. My height was caused by using the heaven pillar here. As long as we leave this place and the pressure is reduced, I will naturally recover." As she spoke, Ji Hei pulled the chain that was locking her shoulder blade. Following the sound of bones breaking, blood mist appeared. Ji-hei had forcefully removed the chain that was locking her shoulder blade. Yu Qing's heart trembled. She quickly wanted to take out some pills to help Ji-hei heal. But when she scanned her storage ring with her spirit consciousness, she found that there were no pills in her storage ring. Ji-hei's face was slightly pale. She smiled, "You don't have to worry. I'm from the witch race. Locking my shoulder blade isn't that serious to me." Then my master. Yu Qing was confused. She felt that her master was very smart. How could she make such a mistake? Ji-hei sighed, "Do you think she doesn't know? She deliberately let me break free so that I wouldn't be able to escape. Then, she locked me up like that. She's a devil." Yu Qing was sad. She believed Ji-hei's words. However, she immediately saw the restriction that was gradually closing. She hurriedly said, "Senior Hei, let's leave quickly. The restriction is about to close." Ji-hei shook her head. "We can't get out of that place. Xingxi's white mist realm is outside. Besides her, no one can get out. There's only one way to get out of here. We have to leave through the heaven pillar." Yu Qing subconsciously looked at the back of the temple that led to the heaven pillar. The void Dao runes were tumbling there. With her cultivation level, she would be courting death if she went in. Moreover, if she wanted to leave through the inside, why would she tear the restriction on the outside wider? Ji-hei took out a ball of golden liquid and said, "This is the golden liquid from Xingxi's lotus pond. I collected it for tens of thousands of years before I obtained this. If we use this liquid, we will have a chance of leaving through the void in the middle of the heaven pillar." But Yu Qing looked at the golden liquid in Ji-hei's hand. Ji-hei laughed self-deprecatingly. She did it on purpose when the golden lotus liquid seeped out of the pool. She wanted to see me escape and then throw me here. She's a perverted woman with a strong desire for control. Otherwise, do you think I would have the chance to collect this golden liquid? However, she was careless for once. After so many years of observation, I discovered that as long as we open the restriction of this temple and connect the laws of the heaven pillar with the garden outside, we will have the chance to leave. Yu Qing was even more silent. If all of this was true, then her cheap master's actions were too vicious. She subconsciously looked at the beautiful flowers in the garden and sighed. Indeed, people who loved beauty might not be as beautiful as flowers. Ji-hei knew what Yu Qing meant. She sneered and said, "Do you know why her garden is so flourishing? The fertilizer under the flowers are countless beauties. Moreover, they are all beauties who have cultivated successfully. As long as she thinks that their beauty can threaten her, she will capture them and use them as fertilizer. You're even more beautiful than her. If I'm not wrong, if you can't create a world within the specified time, you will also become the fertilizer under this garden." Yu Qing shuddered. Before she could react, Ji-hei grabbed her and said, "Don't think too much about it. Let's go." The next moment, the two were wrapped in a golden liquid and rolled into the vast void between the heaven pillars. In another part of the void, the starry sky will stopped. In recent years, Chasing Bull had been very proud of itself. It controlled the starry sky wheel and shuttled through the vast void. Even if some meteorites couldn't avoid it, the powerful protective restrictions of the starry sky will blew them away. But today, it felt worried. According to the directional instructions of the world mountains and rivers, it should have torn open this part of the void and let the starry sky will continue to move forward. The problem was that it couldn't tear open this part of the void. It had already used 2 breaking boundary talismans, but it still couldn't shake this part of the void. At this moment, it even suspected that this part of the void was not a boundary, but a real positional plane. Its master was cultivating and comprehending spirit techniques. At this time, it must not disturb him. Once it angered its master, its good days would come to an end. Ning Chen wasn't just comprehending spirit techniques, but he was also decomposing the laws of darkness. Compared to the time when he tried to comprehend the traceless collapse alone, he now had a direction to go in. As Ning Qing decomposed the laws of darkness, he even felt glad that he was at the late-stage Dao integration realm. If he were at the early-stage Dao integration realm, it would not have been easy to grasp the laws of darkness. Over the past few years, he had gained a deeper understanding of the laws of darkness. At this time, he also gained a certain understanding of why the power of hope belonged to the laws of light. The laws of darkness and light not only applied to the naked eye and spiritual consciousness, but also to something that could be sensed by the spiritual soul. The power of hope was a powerful force that eroded the spiritual soul. This force belonged to the laws of light at the soul level. Similarly, the laws of darkness also had a power at the soul level. With just a thought, Ning Cheng's entire sea of consciousness was swept away by a vast black tide. This black tide was under his control, and with just a thought, his sea of consciousness regained its clarity in the next moment. Ning Cheng felt overjoyed. He had already grasped the basics of the laws of darkness. As long as he took another step forward, he could start deriving dark-attributed spirit techniques. Just when Ning Cheng was about to head to the deck of the Starry Sky Wheel and try out the laws of darkness in the void, the Starry Sky Wheel shook violently. Was someone attacking the Starry Sky Wheel? Or did Chasing Bull let the Starry Sky Wheel hit a meteorite? As Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness stretched out, his figure flashed and landed on the deck of the Starry Sky Wheel. Chapter 1394. Get out of here, Ant. If you provoke my master, you're dead. This Grandpa Bull will spare your dog life for the sake of your cultivation. Chasing Bull sat on the Starry Sky Wheel with its fat belly and pointed its hoof at a dark-faced man outside the Starry Sky Wheel's restrictions. It looked a little ridiculous. Ha ha ha. A little Dao sculpting beast dares to tell this emperor to get out of here. This emperor wants to see if your meat tastes a little special after I kill you. The dark-faced man laughed, and his aura rose even more. At the same time, he brought out a white bone weapon and blasted it towards the Starry Sky Wheel. Hearing this dark-faced man calling it a beast, Chasing Bull immediately turned furious. If not for the fact that it couldn't beat the other party, it might have already opened the restrictions. The dark-faced man imagined the scene of the Starry Sky Wheel's restrictions shattering under his white bone weapon. But he soon realized that something was wrong. After his white bone weapon blasted down, it didn't give off any Dao charm fluctuations. The Starry Sky Wheel's restrictions, which had shaken under his attack, became completely still after he added the power of his Dao charm. Before he could check it out, he felt a sharp pain in his sea of consciousness. Then, he lost contact with his white bone weapon. The next moment, he saw a linen-robed youth standing on the deck of the Starry Sky Wheel. The Starry Sky Wheel's defensive restrictions had all opened. What made him break out in a cold sweat was that this linen-robed youth was holding his weapon in his hand, and the other party was looking at him coldly. One had to know that he was a late-stage Dao integration cultivator. Yet, a late-stage Dao integration cultivator's sea of consciousness had been silently cut off and grabbed by someone else. How terrifying was this? Master! Chasing Bull quickly wagged its tail and called out in a flattering tone. It's you. When the dark-faced man's gaze fell on Ning Cheng's face, he spoke up in surprise. Ning Cheng looked at the dark-faced man in doubt. He felt sure that he had never seen this person before or heard this person's voice. This fellow's aura felt a little familiar, but it wasn't very obvious. Do you know me? Ning Cheng asked immediately. The dark-faced man's eyes flashed with a hint of fear and solemnity. He cupped his fists towards Ning Cheng and said, "Back in the perishing Soul Gorge's perpetual moon abyss, I had a deal with Dao Monarch." Ning Cheng instantly understood, you are that wisp of remnant soul under the perpetual moon abyss, and also a trace of consciousness left behind by Ji Fengyu, right? I didn't expect you to grow to this point. Not only did you condense a body, but you also came out of the perpetual moon abyss. It's truly amazing. Hearing the words of this black-faced man, Ning Cheng immediately remembered. Naturally, the voice of the remnant soul from back then and this fellow who had recovered his physical body would be different. The black-faced man felt extremely shocked. What was Ning Cheng's cultivation when he left the perpetual moon abyss? Now, Ning Qing could easily take away a Dao integration late-stage Holy Emperor's Dharma treasure. This was simply appalling. If the other party wanted to kill him, it would be as easy as flipping his hand. Was it really that heaven-defying to possess a fortune treasure? Many thanks for Dao Lord Ning's help. If not for Dao Lord giving me the mysterious yellow origin and other materials, I would not have been able to get out of the perpetual moon abyss. The black-faced man spoke with a respectful tone. With Ning Cheng's strength, it was obvious that he could kill him in an instant. In front of Ning Cheng, he had to be honest. Ning Cheng nodded, "It's a transaction between us. I also want to thank you for the recalling Bodhi seed. That thing helped me a lot. Moreover, you attacked my airship here. Are you trying to block the road and rob me?" The black-faced man suddenly felt embarrassed. He had indeed blocked the road and robbed him. After he condensed his physical body and rushed out of the perpetual moon abyss, cultivation resources had become increasingly scarce. As an existence condensed from a trace of consciousness, he had never felt guilty or wronged when it came to things like killing. As long as it could enhance his strength, he would not hesitate to do it. Becoming a void pirate was the easiest way for him to obtain resources. Ning Cheng's complexion immediately turned cold, as he realized that this road robbery had actually happened to his head. Seeing Ning Cheng's expression turn cold, the black-faced man felt anxious. He knew that in front of Ning Cheng's strength, he could forget about escaping. "Master, this dog-headed black face wanted to rob our starry sky wheel. If Master hadn't come out of seclusion in time, this fellow would have killed me." Chasing Bull did not hesitate to add oil to the fire. "Dao Lord, I really didn't know that this was your airship." Ning Cheng interrupted the other party, "If you don't know that it's my airship, how can you rob it?" The black-faced man hesitated for a moment before suddenly speaking, "Dao Lord, for the sake of the recalling Bodhi seed, please don't care about this matter. In return, I'm willing to tell Dao Lord one thing." Ning Cheng had no intention of killing this black-faced man. The reason he threatened this fellow was to ask about Perpetual Moon Heavenly Emperor. Now hearing the black-faced man's words, he immediately asked, "What is it?" "It's about the Perpetual Moon Abyss. I suspect that there are top-grade treasures in the deepest part of the Perpetual Moon Abyss," the black-faced man said. Ning Cheng asked in doubt, "You've stayed in the Perpetual Moon Abyss for countless years. Even if there is something good in it, will you tell me?" The black-faced man quickly replied, "Dao Lord, you misunderstood. The Perpetual Moon Abyss is a place filled with chaotic auras. Even if Dao Lord entered it in the past, you couldn't survive. How could there be anything good in it?" Ning Cheng understood the meaning behind the black-faced man's words. The Perpetual Moon Abyss was a terrifying place, and almost everyone who entered it would die. If he didn't have the mysterious yellow bead, he would have died after entering it. Because of the mysterious yellow bead, he had used the mysterious yellow bead to temper his spiritual consciousness after entering the Perpetual Moon Abyss. Only after comprehending the spiritual consciousness explosion did he manage to come out of the mysterious yellow bead. "What is the treasure you mentioned?" Ning Cheng continued to ask. The black-faced man cautiously replied, "The Perpetual Moon Abyss is filled with chaotic laws and violent Dao charms. If I didn't have the protection of the defensive array, I wouldn't have survived. Later, because I adapted to the environment inside, I slowly tempered myself to adapt to the violent aura of the Perpetual Moon Abyss. I even managed to control the teleportation array in the Perpetual Moon Abyss. Even so, I didn't dare to go to the deepest part. Tens of thousands of years ago, I felt a violent void collapse coming from the deepest part of the Perpetual Moon Abyss. Even I myself was almost swept away by that collapse. At that time, I felt very worried. Fortunately, the collapse did not sweep me away. At that time, I desperately needed to leave the Perpetual Moon Abyss. It's just that you couldn't condense a corporeal body, right?" Ning Cheng suddenly asked. The dark-faced man nodded and explained, "That is indeed the case. After you fell into the Perpetual Moon Abyss, I actually found the materials to condense a corporeal body. However, with the help of the mysterious yellow origin, I would be able to reach a higher realm and step into the third step. After I condensed a corporeal body with the help of the mysterious yellow origin, I immediately left the perpetual moon abyss. You didn't go to the deepest part of the perpetual moon abyss to see. What makes you think that there are treasures in the depths of the perpetual moon abyss? Ning Qing frowned slightly. He didn't believe that this guy was trying to trick him. Even if he went to the perpetual moon abyss, would he be able to catch him? With his current strength, going to the perishing soul gorge again naturally wouldn't be the same as before, where he had to rely on teleportation to leave. Ning Qing estimated that Ji Fengyu's strength when he set up the perpetual moon abyss was similar to his current strength, or even worse. The black-faced man hurriedly explained, I went to take a look. The further down we go, the stronger the chaotic laws. Towards the end, Ji Fengyu's void teleportation array in the perpetual moon abyss had long since lost its effect. Furthermore, I can vaguely sense the nomological aura that only a top-grade treasure can emit. My strength is too weak, so I can't go down to check. Originally, I planned to go in after creating a boundary. The perpetual moon abyss was located in the perishing soul gorge, a mysterious place within the Jiaoyang mountain. If there were any treasures in it, Ning Cheng would not doubt it. The first good fortune war had started in the Jiaoyang mountain. Who knew if any powerhouses had fallen in it? Should I call you Ji Fengyu now, or something else? Ning Cheng suddenly interrupted the conversation. The black-faced man felt relieved. He knew that Ning Cheng didn't have any intention to kill him and quickly spoke up, although I was a remnant of Ji Fengyu's thoughts, I have nothing to do with Ji Fengyu now. I only know a little bit of Ji Fengyu's memories. I was born in the perpetual moon abyss, so Dao Lord can call me Wang. Wang? That's a good name. My name is Ning Cheng. You can lead the way now. Let's go to the perpetual moon abyss. Ning Cheng intended to go to the perpetual moon abyss. He had already planned to return to the Jiaoyang mountain, and the Chaos Realm was right next to the Jiaoyang mountain. Yes, Dao Lord Ning. Wang quickly saluted and boarded Ning Cheng's starry sky wheel without hesitation. From the moment Ning Cheng entered the perishing soul gorge, he knew that Ning Cheng wasn't a person who liked to kill. Otherwise, he wouldn't have saved people in the perishing soul gorge. Wang, did Heavenly Emperor Perpetual Moon Ji Fengyu participate in the first good fortune war? Ning Cheng directly tore open the interface that Chasing Bull couldn't open with talismans and asked casually. Wang sighed. Although Ji Fengyu was very strong, he could only stay at the periphery of the first good fortune war. He saw the opening of the good fortune gate, but he could never get close to it. At that time, he was seriously injured and felt very unwilling. Perpetual moon meant that he wanted to see the good fortune mountain forever. Although Ji Fengyu couldn't intervene in the good fortune war, his strength was top-notch in the periphery of the good fortune war. After the good fortune war, he still captured many primordial chaos holy emperors and Dao unification holy emperors. He trapped them in the perishing soul gorge. As for what he wanted to do, I still don't know. I think that if Ji Fengyu didn't fall, he would definitely come to the Jiaoyang mountain's perishing soul gorge again. So that's the case. Ning Cheng nodded and didn't speak again. Seeing Ning Cheng fall into contemplation, Wang helped Chasing Bull control the star